Chapter 63. Good evening. You don't look familiar. How should I address you? Tang Yin bowed slightly and said calmly, Ambrose Peter. Tang Yin was dressed as a middle-aged man with a gloomy face, and his cold voice matched his temperament. Ambrose. Bose lightly tapped his forehead. This surname seems to be more common in the north. Tang Yin looked at Bose in surprise and praised. Sir Bose is very knowledgeable. I am a wood merchant from Shanghai City in the north. Haha, it's not that old Bao is knowledgeable. When I was young, I lived in a Xiong border city in the north, so I still have some memories of it. Bose raised his head and laughed. I wonder what the Xiong border city looks like now. I really miss it. Sir Peter is from the north, so you must have been there before. Can you describe it to me? I'm sorry about that. Although I'm from the north, I only run a single line in the wood business, which is between Shanghai City and the other cities in the south, so I don't know anything about the Xiong border city. Tang Yin's reply was flawless. I see. That's a pity. Bose shook his head as if it was a pity. Then he said, Your Excellency Peter is in the timber business. How's the market now? It's okay. There aren't any big fluctuations. Tang Yin replied vaguely. He couldn't help but be alarmed. Bose always ended his greetings with just a few words, but when it came to him, he talked a lot. It was obvious that he felt something. That's good. And what a coincidence. I have a friend who recently said that he wants to start a wood business and is preparing to sell to the north. However, he isn't sure about the land trade route. Also, it's hard for him to decide whether to transport red incense wood or ebony ironwood. Sir Peter is an expert, so I hope you can give him some pointers. After saying that, Bose stared at Tang Yin with a burning gaze. This, Tang Yin hesitated and said, This involves business secrets, so it's not convenient for me to say. Bose's eyes widened. Mr. Peter, that's a little petty. You don't have the boldness of a northerner at all. It's just a route and a choice. There's no trade secret. But Bose took half a step forward, stared into Tang Yin's eyes, and said, Mr. Peter, if you continue to refuse, people will inevitably think that you don't know anything. What do you think? Tang Yin remained silent and stood still. The surrounding crowd also felt that something was wrong and hurriedly retreated. Bose was suddenly stunned, because when he stared closely into Tang Yin's eyes, he discovered that the other party's eyes had suddenly become very empty, as if his soul had been extracted, leaving behind only a shell. After a few seconds, Tang Yin's eyes regained their luster. He sighed and said, Well, since Sir Bose has said so, then I can only tell you the truth. Bose frowned. Red incense wood can't be transported, or else you will suffer a great loss. Because the climate in the north is very cold, the red incense wood will most likely be frozen and cracked when transported there. Ebony ironwood is a good choice. This wood is heavy and won't be frozen and cracked. It can also be used as a building material to block the cold air. It's considered a hot commodity in the Northwood market. Tang Yin's words were eloquent and reasonable. Many nobles and merchants who were knowledgeable nodded their heads lightly. As for the route, if Sir Bose's friend chooses to take the land route, then even if he is transporting ebony ironwood, he will still suffer a loss. You must know that the distance between the two places is very long and the cost is very high. In addition, the north is full of barren hills and treacherous rivers, thieves and bandits. It's really too dangerous for a merchant team to pass through. So the only way to transport wood is to choose the water route. Lion City is behind Brand's economic artery, the Lano River. Going north from this route, not only will the transportation cost be lower, but the time required will also be much faster. Well, Sir Bose, are you satisfied with my answer? I have a system in my head. As long as there's information, I dare to answer 100,000 questions. I'm satisfied. Bose forced a smile and said, I thank you on behalf of my friend first. Let me toast you with a cup of wine. After that, Bose picked up 2 crystal wine glasses from the table beside him and stuffed one of them into Tang Yin's hand. Cheers! Cheers! Bang! The glass shattered, and some red wine spilled on Tang Yin's face. I'm sorry. Bose hurriedly took a napkin and wiped Tang Yin's face. Old Tang and used to drink from a bowl. He's really not used to drinking from a crystal glass. It shattered when we touched the glass. After being wiped vigorously a few times, Tang reached out and pressed Bose's hand. I understand. When I drank in the north, I also used to drink from a bowl. I'm really not used to holding a crystal glass. I'll do it myself. Tang took the napkin and wiped his face a few times. Sir Bose, is there any left on my face? Why are you looking at me like this? No, I'm really sorry. Bose's expression was a little absent-minded. Haha, it doesn't matter. Tang shrugged. You want to see through my disguise with a glass of wine? Are you kidding me? Bose's senses were undoubtedly quite sharp, especially for an assassin who had just killed someone. Although he couldn't see any flaws in Tang's face from the beginning, he still noticed that something was wrong. After several verbal probing attempts were all resolved by Tang, he decided to find a way to wipe Tang's face. As a result, he succeeded, but Tang's face remained unchanged. Of course, Bose couldn't be blamed for the failed probing. After all, he was exposed to the disguise techniques of another world. Now that he suddenly encountered another system of disguise techniques, there was naturally nothing he could do. Although he still had doubts in his heart, Bose could only give up and continue walking. There were a total of 5 thieves that came in tonight. 1 failed to crack the magic lock and was killed by the explosion. 2 were now captured. Jack's whereabouts were unknown, and Tang passed safely. Bose naturally couldn't find any thieves in the later search. On the other side, Count Orston had already searched the 2 thieves, but he didn't find what he wanted to see. Seeing that Bose had finished searching, Count Orston's expression immediately turned ugly. At this moment, Viscount Anthony stood up again and said sarcastically, Sir Count, now that the search is over, can you let us old men go back and rest? Count Orston's expression was as gloomy as a dark cloud. He ignored the words and called over 2 guards. Take these 2 damned thieves away and serve them well. I want to know who ordered them as soon as possible. Yes, Sir Count. Bose furrowed his brows. Count Orston waved his hand. Don't worry, Chief Bose. I'll keep them alive for you to report back. Bose furrowed his brows and fell silent. He had a nagging feeling that something was amiss, but Tang's mistake at the beginning made him hesitate. Count Orston glanced at Viscount Anthony. Go back. Sure, but you have to wait until after the body search. Body search? What a joke. Count Orston, you're too rude. A single stone stirred up 1,000 ripples. Everyone in the hall was instantly angered and started condemning Orston. Bose finally couldn't suppress the throbbing in his heart and asked, Sir Count, do you know that guard just now? What? Count Orston was currently being condemned. How could he understand Bose's question? Bose had no choice but to ask again. Guard, is there a problem? Count Orston took a few steps back and called over a butler. The guard just now? I didn't pay much attention to him. I think he's an unfamiliar face. The butler tried his best to recall. Oh no. Bose slapped his thigh and roared, Bugnes, bring your brothers and follow me. Count Orston was confused. What's wrong? One of the guards just now was in disguise. Bose said and quickly rushed out of the hall. What? Count Orston was stunned at first. Then he flew into a rage. Damn it, you're too much. Guards, follow me. Sir, what do we do here? The butler on the side quickly asked. Those who want to be searched can leave. Those who don't want to stay here. With that, Count Orston took a battle sword and rushed out murderously. Phew! Hurry up and upload, or else Civit's character will be ruined. Please recommend. Chapter 64. All the guests were dumbfounded when they saw Count Orston suddenly abandon them and run out of the hall. This guy was going to be a scoundrel to the end. The butler braced himself and bowed. Sirs, the Count said that we can leave immediately after the search. Those who are unwilling, might have to stay here for the night. How dare you? How dare you? I'll stay here. I'd like to see how long this pirate will keep me under house arrest. Needless to say, the moment he said that, countless spittle flew out. The butler did not dare to be as forceful as Count Orston, so he lowered his head and silently endured the spittle. The butler could not make any decisions. He was only responsible for carrying out orders. The noble guests cursed a few times, but seeing that there was no response, they stopped. In the end, they looked at each other and gradually fell into silence. On the other side, after Count Austen rushed out of the hall with his sword, he saw Bose and the others in the garden. Of course, there were also a few figures lying on the ground. "How is it?" Count Austen asked anxiously. Bose shook his head. "They're all dead. 2 thieves and a guard. All of them had their throats slit with a dagger." Motherf asterisk cur. Count Austen cursed. He felt aggrieved. There was no good news tonight. He had finally caught 2 thieves and was about to ask them something, but they were killed again. Was this still the impregnable castle that he had always been proud of? Why did it look like a farmer's garden now? People could come and go as they pleased. Count Austen's eyes were bloodshot. He said fiercely, "Chase. He can't escape. I've already ordered the castle to be locked down." Bose sighed. "You should have gone to the back door of the castle. When I came, didn't the butler say that a thief had already rushed out by blowing up the back door?" Count Austen was stunned. Then, he threw his sword on the ground. "Damn it. Also," Bose hesitated, "I suspect that the person pretending to be a guard is Ghostface." Count Austen opened his mouth and was dumbfounded. Ghostface. At this moment, the people in the hall had already left after being searched. As long as someone took the lead, the rest of the matter would be much easier to handle. The man was taken to the side for a detailed search, while the woman handed over her belongings, such as a scarf, a hat, and other things for a brief inspection. Then, after checking the carriage, they could leave. Tang Yin followed the crowd through the inspection and drove out of the castle. After exiting Austen Castle, Tang Yin let out a long sigh of relief as he looked back at the anchor symbol. He had finally passed the knight's test. Then, Tang Yin turned his horse around and rode in another direction. The woman's inspection was simple, so Josiah left the castle half an hour earlier than Tang Yin. He should be home now. After galloping for about half an hour, Tang Yin stopped the carriage in a remote area in the eastern part of the city. After walking through a small forest, they arrived outside a manor with a bauhinia flower symbol hanging on it. This was Josiah's home, the manor of Baron Crowley's family. Of course, this place did not have the perverse security of the Austen Castle. Tang Yin walked around the manor and climbed over the wall at the side. The first thing he saw was a large lawn. In the middle of the lawn was an oak tree with thick roots. Since it was late autumn, there were not many leaves on the oak tree. Behind the lawn was a row of 3-story jade-white buildings with golden eaves and green tiles, with many windows. Although it was not grand, it was rather exquisite. This place did not have the perverse security of a noble's castle, but it did not mean that there were no guards. Every once in a while, he could still see guards in light armor patrolling the night. Of course, such guards were not a problem for Tang Yin. After observing for a while, Tang Yin figured out the route and frequency of the guards patrolling the night. Taking advantage of the time difference between the patrolling guards, Tang Yin ran along the wall and passed through the main building from a side. Behind the main building were more than 10 small buildings scattered in the flower bed and orchard. They were not far apart from each other and looked rather elegant from afar. The environment is not bad, but there are too many buildings. Tang Yin smacked his lips and slowly groped around. The design of a noble's small building was, of course, based on aesthetics. Therefore, the balconies had various artistic protrusions, which undoubtedly made it convenient for Tang Yin. He jumped from one windowsill to another and then climbed onto the eaves of the next small building. His movements were smooth and simple. He wandered around the manor like Spider-Man. "Lisa!" Just as Tang Yin climbed onto a windowsill, a soft cry came from inside. The voice belonged to Josiah. "TSK, my luck is not bad." Tang Yin extended his dagger and slowly cut open the window. He then climbed in softly. "Lisa, is it you? Help me get a dry towel." Tang Yin, who had just touched the ground, was instantly stunned. No way. How could his senses be so sensitive? When he went around a layer of light gauze in front of him, Tang Yin was completely dumbfounded. There was a bathtub in the middle of the room. Josiah was sitting in it with his flawless white shoulders exposed. From time to time, he would raise his white wrists and gently wipe his body. "Lisa, give me the towel." Josiah extended his white wrist behind him. Tang and swallowed his saliva and looked around. He saw a white towel on a wooden shelf at the side. Under the towel were the clothes that Josiah was wearing today. The fluffy long skirt was also there. Tang and gently walked over and picked up the towel. He took a few steps forward and handed it to Josiah. Because of the angle, Tang Un's gaze slid down from Josiah's sharp shoulders, through his delicate collarbone, and landed on a bulging white mound. Because Josiah's right hand was raised and his body was slightly tilted back, Tang In also saw the trembling pink. "Thank you. Oh, Lisa, go and check if the window isn't closed properly. I felt a cool breeze just now." Tang In nodded subconsciously. He immediately came back to his senses and couldn't help but despise himself. "I'm not Lisa. Why did I nod? Pa miss, you called me." A little girl answered and pushed the door open. What followed was a scream. F***CK. Tang In slapped his forehead. He was too careless. He was too focused on the beautiful scenery in front of him and didn't hear the footsteps behind him. Josiah turned around in shock. "What's wrong?" "It's you." Another scream was heard. Tang In's night clothes were left on a tree in the back garden of Austin Castle, so he didn't cover his face this time. He still had the appearance of a hooked nose. There was no doubt that his hooked nose was too eye-catching, so Josiah still remembered the person who stepped on her skirt tonight. Tang In didn't dare to say anything at this time. He picked up his skirt and quickly retreated. Shameless. Josiah was already angry. Now that she saw that Tang In wanted to take her skirt away, she became even angrier. She spread out her hands, and a cold blue light bloomed. Whoosh, whoosh, F***CK. Tang In quickly turned around, and two icicles brushed past him. Bang, bang. The wooden window shattered. Whoosh. An ice ball quickly followed. Bang. Tang In flicked his dagger and shattered the ice ball. A visible layer of ice quickly spread on the dagger. The cold in his hand was threatening. Tang In was shocked. He quickly threw away the dagger and jumped out of the window. Water entanglement. With a shout, a ribbon of water flew out of the window and wrapped around Tang In's ankle. F***CK, what is this? It was Tang In's first time fighting with a magician. He was obviously not used to it. Bang! Tang In's hand flashed with a bloody light. He turned around and shattered the ribbon of water with a punch. He landed on the ground and immediately rushed toward the wall. Not far away, a group of guards arrived late. Josiah didn't have any clothes on, so she naturally wouldn't chase after him. She could only watch as the shameless person who stole her skirt jumped over the wall and left. Josiah angrily stomped her foot. This pervert. P.S. Bowing to thank book friends Earth Mud and Chun-Shi for their tips. Yep, Raccoon created a new book group, 2788-19949. Welcome, everyone. Chapter 65. Late at night, the stone roads and alleys of the West District were all quiet. Most of the families around had already gone to bed. Occasionally, there were a few cries of children, but they were quickly comforted by the adults. At this moment, there was a figure peeking out of the alley, looking around anxiously. Why isn't he here yet? Could it be that Arthur is blocked? Jack scratched his head in distress. Sigh. If I knew he was so unreliable, I would have been better off keeping the account book. I say, can't you hope for something good for me? Jack was shocked. He raised his head abruptly and saw a figure flash out from the side like a ghost. Even if you get blocked 10 times, I won't get blocked even once, Tang In said unhappily. Jack laughed dryly and said, Hee, that's true, that's true. With your disguise skills, you can definitely get out of trouble even if you get blocked. Really? Then why did I hear someone say, I'm unreliable just now? Who? Stand up and see if your Uncle Jack will cut him. Jack smiled mischievously and said, Where's the account book? Did you bring it? Return the account book? Tang In's face suddenly darkened. It's good enough that you can keep your life. Do you know who came later? Bose. Jack's face changed. Bose came too? He had to admit that Bose was definitely the nemesis of those who walked in the dark in Lion City. Yeah, your two colleagues were caught on the spot. Jack's face was filled with joy and pity. Luckily, Luckily, I didn't go back to the front hall. Sigh, what a pity 10,000 gold coins flew away just like that. Tang In blinked. 10,000 gold coins is nothing. Didn't you carry a lot of things at that time? Sigh, don't mention it. Jack's face was full of bad luck. Those guards were too fierce. I could only throw things to divert their attention. In the end, I threw out a magic lock to escape. Damn it, I worked for nothing tonight. Yes, forget it. Since it's not done, I'm leaving. Jack cupped his hands in frustration and turned to leave. Well, goodbye. Tang In turned around and walked into the alley. Arthur, why are you still walking inside? Turning in the mission. You don't even have an account book. You Arthur, you actually lied to me. Jack followed him, both happy and angry. The corner of Tang Un's mouth twitched. Haha, I'm not lying to you. I didn't bring the complete account book with me. I only brought 3 pages. 3 pages? Enough is enough. When the time comes, I will negotiate and say that the account book only has these 3 pages. Ha! You're really wretched. Thanks for the compliment. If a thief doesn't play dirty, how can he have a future? At the entrance of the abandoned manor, the gray-robed man was pacing back and forth anxiously. He couldn't have failed, right? Thinking back to his subordinate's report of Bose entering the castle, he couldn't help but feel upset. It's this Bose again. Damn it. He keeps ruining things, formulating a plan, bribing spies, investigating the secret passage, arranging for thieves to enter the castle. Every step was very secretive and difficult. Now, because of an unexpected factor, it could lead to failure. The gray-robed man was unwilling. The gray-robed man suddenly raised his head and looked forward. Not long after, he saw 2 figures talking in the alley. Although he didn't know either of them, the gray-robed man was still overjoyed. They were thieves, after all. How could they not look? Jack smiled and greeted. The employer must be waiting anxiously. It's fine. I wonder if that thing... The gray-robed man probed. Look, Jack took out a piece of paper and placed it in front of the gray-robed man. On a certain day, transport 300 sets of black iron heavy armor to the Blackbeard pirates. Fee, 25,000 gold coins. On a certain day, transport 50 fox girls from the northern wilderness to Mingguang City. Fee, 20,000 gold coins. This is it. The gray-robed man excitedly grabbed the paper. Schwa! He grabbed nothing. Jack took back the paper and chuckled. Oh! The gray-robed man took out a wooden box and opened it. There was a thick stack of gold notes with a face value of 1,000 gold coins. Gold notes from the Bran Empire Bank. You can exchange them in any city in the Bran Empire. Are you satisfied? Satisfied. Jack happily handed over the 3 account books with one hand and the 11 gold notes with the other. TSK. Jack nodded and counted the 11 gold notes from the beginning to the end, then from the end to the beginning, then from the beginning to the end again. Tang In unconsciously turned his head away. Damn, I have to be prepared to lose face whenever I'm with this kind of person. Why are there only 3 pages? The gray-robed man took the paper and frowned as he asked in surprise. Jack satisfactorily put away the gold notes and said without changing his expression, This is the account book from the study. There are only 3 pages. Maybe it was just recorded. Oh, the gray-robed man didn't suspect anything. He put away the account book and cupped his hands. Thank you for your help this time. You're welcome. You provided the money and we did the work. Oh, right, you don't have to wait for the other 3 thieves. They probably won't be coming. That's why, if you want to find thieves, you have to find professionals like us. As long as you have enough money, I can even steal the City Lord's seal for you. Jack put his hands on his waist and began to boast shamelessly. The gray-robed man's face mask moved slightly, as if the corner of his mouth twitched. He cupped his hands and laughed apologetically. After the mission was completed, the gray-robed man obviously didn't have the mood to chat. After a few polite words, he said goodbye and quickly left with the group of black armored guards. In order to prevent this kind of thing from happening, Tang In and Jack also quickly left the alley and found a shadow to deal with the stolen goods. Here are 5,000 gold coins. Jack handed over 5 gold notes. Don't say that I'm not loyal. We agreed at the beginning that you'll take 40% and I'll take 60%. Now, there are 11,000 gold coins. Then I'll take 60% and you take 50%. Tang nodded and took the 5 gold notes. Touching the soft material, he couldn't help but sigh. Damn, I've finally become a rich person. Also, I'll give you another gift, Jack suddenly said with a smile. Gift? Tang looked at Jack in surprise. Is this guy's brain damaged from excitement? Thinking about how the two of them quarreled intensely for a while yesterday, he suddenly gave money and a gift. What's with that look? Jack rolled his eyes and said, Don't you use a dagger? Your dagger is too lousy. I'll give you an absolutely top-notch dagger. After saying that, Jack handed over a pitch-black dagger from his bosom. Tang took it and looked left and right. He pointed at the 6 holes on both sides and said, Damn, where are the diamonds? This dagger was the same multicolored dagger that Tang and Selena had seen in the secret passage in Earl Aston's study. However, the multicolored dagger had now become monochromatic, and the diamonds on it had all been removed, leaving behind 6 ugly holes. The dagger is yours. Naturally, the diamonds are mine. Don't be too greedy, okay? The value of meteorite essence isn't low. That's not right. Tang suddenly reacted. Didn't you say that you lost everything in the secret passage? Where did this dagger come from? Why do you have such a strong sense of distrust towards me? Jack blinked and looked aggrieved. I lost everything in the bag, but I didn't lose anything in my pocket. I only brought out this dagger and the ocean tide battle aura mental cultivation method. Don't pretend to be aggrieved. Tang saw through Jack's disguise and said, Didn't you want to leave at the entrance of the alley just now? That means you didn't intend to give this dagger to me? Ahem. Jack's old face turned red, and then he argued. Didn't you lie to me just now? Besides, I'm giving you the dagger now. This is different. Both sides argued for a while. The final result was that Jack took out a diamond to compensate Tang for being deceived and deeply hurt. Jack sighed painfully. This is blatant extortion. No, this is called karma. Tang calmly put the diamond into his pocket. P.S. Please vote Sanjiang. Civic Cat doesn't want to be ranked that high, but now he is the last. This is unbearable to watch. So, please click on Sanjiang. Receive Sanjiang ticket. Drag it below and vote for the strongest killer system. Civic Cat thanks. Chapter 66. About 10 miles to the southeast of Austin Castle, there was another huge structure. If one looked down from the top of the East District, they would find that this was the center of the noble's residence. Its walls were not as tall as Austin Castle, and its main buildings did not look luxurious. Even the golden lion emblem in front of its door felt a bit old. However, when one looked directly at this noble's castle, the first thought that came to mind would be words like history, rich, and history. This was the castle of one of the 4 counts of Lion City, the Robert family. At the back of the castle, a group of black-armored guards escorted a gray-clothed man through the back door. After entering the castle, the gray-clothed man waved his hand and said something. The black-armored guards bowed and left. Then the gray-clothed man hurriedly walked into the castle. He seemed to have a high status, as the butler and guards he met along the way all bowed to him. After a while, he arrived in front of a 3-story stone building in the castle. After entering, he went straight to the 2nd floor and finally stopped in front of a red Phoebe door. Knock, knock, knock. Come in. The gray-clothed man pushed open the door. The decorations in a room were quite simple. Facing the door was a large office table that took up a quarter of the room. There were all kinds of documents and materials on the table. Although there were a lot of things, perhaps the owner liked cleanliness, so everything was placed neatly. Behind the table sat a man with his head lowered as he read documents. His blonde hair was dazzling. After the gray-clothed man came in, he did not immediately say anything. Instead, he closed the door and stood respectfully beside the table. The room suddenly became quiet again. During this time, only the sound of the blonde man flipping through papers could be heard. Occasionally, he would pick up his quill and write something. After about 10 minutes, The blond man finally closed the documents and raised his head. His chiseled face seemed to show his decisive personality. Although his griffin-like eyes were slightly bloodshot, they were still sharp. This person was the second son of the Robert family, Bevan. I've said this many times, Gray. Sit down when you come in. All right, young Master Bevan. I'll be careful next time. The gray-clothed man, no, Gray bowed, just like he said before. Well, I hope you've really listened to me this time. Bevan smiled and shook his head. Then he calmly asked, How's that matter? Gray showed a trace of excitement. He took out 3 pieces of paper and put them on the table. Young Master Bevan, it's a success. If Tangen were here, he would have recognized the 3 pieces of paper as the pages of the account book he had brought out of Austin Castle. Bevan nodded and picked up the paper. He quickly flipped through it and laughed involuntarily. This Aston family really dares to do anything. Yes, Gray sighed. If these 3 papers end up on the Imperial Court's table, the Austin family will have no choice but to become pirates again. I won't let that happen, because we won't get anything. Bevan put down the paper and smiled. So, Count Orston should be thanking us. As a reward, giving me his 4 docs is not too much. Yes, Count Aston should thank you for your kindness. Ha! Bevan finally showed an excited expression. He immediately said, Let the news out tomorrow that the Austin family is smuggling to the enemy country. 2 days later, we'll contact Count Aston again and hand over the docks. Yes, Gray bowed. Right. How's the construction of the new docks going? Bevan tapped his forehead and asked. It's not going well. The new docks will take up 5 streets. Only one has been cleared out. What's going on? Bevan frowned. Wasn't the document sent out 2 weeks ago? Gray shrugged. The government office responded that they've been working on it. That bunch of useless people. If I were the city master, I'd definitely remove them. Bevan's eyes instantly sharpened. He took a deep breath and said, Send some people from the Golden Lion gang to clear out the other 4 streets. Okay, but the cost of the demolition. Gray said hesitantly, We don't have much money left. The elders in the family have some opinions about our recent spending. Bevan massaged his temples. Those old fogies. Let the 5 families of the Dirks provide some money for now. Once we're done, we'll report it to the finance office together. They've eaten a lot of meat recently. It's time for them to contribute. Okay, all right. Let's turn our attention back to the main character, Tang In. After splitting the loot, Tang In chatted with Jack for a while before he prepared to leave. Before he left, Jack left him an address. Because he knew that Tang Un was an assassin, Jack tactfully didn't ask for Tang In's address. He only told him to bring him along the next time there was a big deal. Tang In naturally agreed. Tang In fell into deep thought as he allowed the carriage to slowly move towards the southwest. The mission of stealing Earl Orston's smuggling account book had been completed. Tang In had gained a lot of benefits, but he still had no clue about the mysterious sender. Tang In didn't like this feeling. It was like walking in the dark of night. You never knew when a big hole would appear in front of you, waiting for you to fall in. Damn it, don't let me know who you are or else. Just as Tang In was gritting his teeth, he suddenly felt a chill in his heart. At this time, the carriage was passing through a narrow bluestone street. The sound of horse hooves hitting the ground echoed far away. Tang In leaned forward slightly, his legs tense. His eyes constantly scanned the surroundings. The feeling just now? It couldn't be wrong. He was definitely being watched. The carriage continued forward, passing by low houses. Suddenly, the chill dropped again. This time, it was much stronger. Tang In's body felt like it had fallen into an ice cave. It was cold both inside and outside. Moving his wrist, Tang In resisted the subconscious reaction of flicking out his dagger. The chill grew stronger and stronger, like a raging wave crashing against the shore. It was as if it wanted to break Tang In's psychological defense. The horse seemed to have sensed something strange as well. It stopped moving forward, its hooves digging into the ground uneasily. Tang In suddenly turned his head to look to the right. There was a low-tiled house on the other side. When Tang In first looked at it, it was empty. But now, a figure appeared on the roof like a ghost. Although the sky was dark, Tang-in still recognized who it was. It was because his attire was too eye-catching. Flowery clothes, mask, long hair. It was Ghost Face, whom Tang-in wanted to investigate recently. End of third update. Let's advertise again. Raccoon Book Friends Group, 2788819949. Chapter 67. Grimace sat casually on the roof and looked at Tang-in quietly. The night wind blew. His flowery clothes and long hair fluttered slightly. The devil mask with messy symbols on it looked indescribably strange against the backdrop of the night. It seemed like he was laughing wildly, but also seemed like he was weeping sadly. Tang-in would never have dreamed that he would meet Grimace like this. Looking at the situation, Grimace was obviously waiting for him. This was what he could not figure out the most. He had never interacted with Grimace before. The only time they had been in close contact was a long time ago at the Green Forest Cemetery in Lion City. However, Tang had been faking at that time. Moreover, they had only met by chance. They could not even be considered as acquaintances. However, Grimace was right in front of him now. A man's name was like a tree shadow. Grimace had been in Lion City for so many years. None of his assassination targets had survived. It was enough to make one tremble in fear. Tang would be lying if he said he was not afraid. Those who did not face Grimace would never feel that bone-deep oppression. At this moment, the icy feeling suddenly receded like the tide. Before Tang could breathe a sigh of relief, Grimace stood up and opened his arms to reveal a pair of unique flowery daggers. F***CK. Tang no longer felt lucky. He flipped his hand to reveal a dagger that was full of holes. Grimace's gaze stopped on a uniquely shaped dagger for 2 seconds. He pursed his red lips slightly. Cough, cough. Tang's face was burning. He had lost his original dagger when he stole Josiah's dress at Crowley Manor. Now he could only use the extremely ugly dagger that Jack had given him as an emergency. TSK tisk. Grimace tapped the roof tiles with his toes and walked a few feet forward. He suddenly appeared on top of the carriage and stabbed his dagger straight at Tang's head. Quick activation, phantom activation, double increase activation. There was nothing much to say in a confrontation between assassins. They could only attack. Tang activated 3 skills consecutively. His body kept changing its size. Following that, more than 10 red dagger shadows enveloped Grimace, who was coming at him from the sky. Ding, 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 sparks flickered, and the sound of rain hitting banana leaves was heard continuously. Within a short period of time, both sides had exchanged daggers for more than 10 times. Tang's dozens of attacks were all blocked. Ghastly leaped backward and flipped onto the roof of the car. There was a time limit to the activation of the skill. Tang did not dare to waste any time and quickly jumped onto the roof of the car. Grimace was looking at his dagger, speechlessly. It had only been a short exchange, but there were already more than 10 small dents on the blade. It was almost a jagged dagger. Huh. Tang went up to the roof of the car and saw this scene. He was overjoyed. It was worthy of being called the black iron meteorite that could cut gold and jade. Although the appearance of this dagger was a little bad, its sharpness was excellent. Since he had an advantage, he naturally had to grab hold of it. Tang stepped forward and flicked his wrist, pulling down layers of red threads to wrap around Ghostface. Oomph. Ghostface snorted coldly. The golden light on his dagger flowed like water, scattering golden specks that fell into the red line like a storm. Hiss, 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 stab, stab, stab. On the roof of the car that was less than 10 feet long, 2 silhouettes kept flashing like ghosts. Gradually, the silhouettes faded away, leaving only the dense red threads and thousands of golden specks. In the beginning, the red threads and the golden specks each occupied half of the roof. The red threads intended to wrap around the entire car roof, forming a cocoon. The golden specks scattered everywhere like a starry sky, piercing with all their might. The strange thing was that even with such a dense barrage of attacks, there were still occasional sounds of collisions. After more than 10 breaths, Tang's plan was foiled. The red threads were scattered by the golden specks. The red threads retreated and set up a defense on one side of the car roof. The golden specks were so powerful that they quickly occupied more than half of the car roof. Like thousands of falling stars, they smashed into the red threads, intending to crush them completely. Counterattack, suppress, counterattack, suppress, suppress, suppress. The red thread's defense area was getting smaller and smaller, finally occupying only a corner of the car roof. The golden specks were still attacking like raging waves, trying to break the last dam. Tangen's expression was cold. He waved the dagger in his hand again and again, his blood chi flowing like water. Unable to do what one wishes the gap. Looking at the golden specks that kept breaking through the defense line, Tang Un's red threads were already at their limit. It was not that Tang In had never been defeated in the other world. At the Flame Dragon Union's base, he was sent flying by Bose's flame-splitting slash. Bose's combat energy was so domineering that it was unstoppable. However, in terms of pressure, Tang In still felt that Ghostface in front of him was a notch higher. Ghostface's golden combat energy was very strange. When they fought, he could clearly feel that it was also a domineering path. However, Ghostface's domineering performance was very subtle, or rather, very reasonable. Ghostface did not waste a single bit of his combat energy. All of it was suppressed to the point of droplets. This suppression gave his combat energy an additional penetrating power and continuity. While he was thinking, the red thread's defense collapsed completely, and the golden specks rushed before him. Tang In stared intently at the gold dots. Close, close. It was now. Random flower. The fragmented red glow suddenly gathered and exploded. In the small space, the red sword glow instantly swept away all the golden specks. A surprised voice came from behind the golden specks. Suddenly, a colorful dagger appeared. The golden glow on it was as dazzling as a small sun, and it shrouded the roof of the car. Oh no! Tang In exclaimed secretly. He could not see, so naturally he did not know where to attack. At this moment, an awe-inspiring pressure came from the front. Gritting his teeth, Tang In directly pushed all the sword glows forward. The roof of the car is only so big. Let's see where you can hide, Dang. Bang! In the golden glow, a pitch-black dagger suddenly bounced up. Then, a figure flew backward and fell on the street. After a few breaths, the outcome was decided. The golden glow disappeared. Ghostface stood on the roof of the car and reached out to catch the falling dagger. He flipped it left and right. Black iron meteorite? Oomph. He swung his arm, and with a whoosh, it was nailed to Tang Un's side. What's the meaning of this? Humiliation? Fight again? Tang Un looked at Ghostface in surprise. However, Tang In no longer had the ability to fight. The continuous battles tonight had depleted over 2,000 points of his vital energy. In addition, he had used the chaotic flowers twice today. His hands were trembling uncontrollably. Tang In picked up the dagger and stood up. Can I ask you a question? Speak. Why do you want to kill me? I don't think anyone would pay for my life. This was a question that Tang Un had been puzzled since the start of the fight. He did not know many people in Lion City. The only one he could be considered an enemy was Winston, and he had killed him. Did I say I want to kill you? I'm just teaching you a lesson. Don't go overboard. Overboard? Can you be more specific? Although Tang Un was glad that his life was not in danger, he was still confused. Ghostface threw him a glance and did not reply. He leaped up, stepped on the roof tiles, and disappeared into the night. Tang Un was dumbfounded. What the heck was going on? He had gotten into a fight for no reason, left behind a baffling sentence, and left. He must be crazy. Tang Un commented on Ghostface decisively. Chapter 68. After the incident with Ghostface, Tang Un finally returned to the backyard of the two-story attic successfully. This night, TSK was so exciting. Sure enough, being ordinary is the way to go. Sighing, Tang Un held the reins of the horse and took out the key to open the back door. Buzz, what's that sound? Tang Un was puzzled. In an instant, bang. A small explosion mixed with panicked voices came from the backyard. F***ck again. Tang In instantly ejected a dagger from his cuff, stepped on the frame of the carriage, and flipped over the wall. In the backyard, Lena sat on the ground with a pale face and covered her ears. In front of her, a small stove was overturned on the ground, and a small deformed pot was emitting black smoke. There was some black liquid with a pungent smell on the wall, not far away. "What is this?" Lena, who was about to get up, saw a person with a dagger standing on the wall and screamed again, "Catch the thief." Tang In staggered and almost fell from the wall. Hey, it's me." Mr. Arthur?" Lena asked hesitantly. "Didn't you see this nose this morning?" Tang In flipped over the wall and stretched out his hand. "Are you cooking?" "No." Lena took Tang In's hand and got up. She took out a book from behind her and said awkwardly, "I read in this book today that if you heat the juice of the flaming grass and sour soil together, there will be a reaction. I was very curious. Coincidentally, there was a potted plant of the flaming grass here, so I tried it. As a result, general outline of alchemy." Tang In looked at the book in Lena's hand and asked in surprise, "Are you interested in alchemy?" "I don't know. I just think it's very interesting. Sour soil and the flaming grass, which are common things, have a reaction when they are heated together. It's incredible. Explosion. Interesting?" Tang In said in surprise. "No. The book said that there would be a beautiful blue flame." Lena looked at the book in distress. Then her eyes lit up and she said excitedly, "I know. It's because of the iron pot. Alchemy had a special burning device, so it would emit blue flames. I put it in an iron pot to heat it up, so it naturally exploded." Seeing Lena's excited expression, Tang In's heart suddenly moved as he said, "Since you're interested in this, I'll buy you an alchemy device tomorrow." Lena hurriedly waved her hand when she heard this. No need. Mr. Arthur, I'm just playing with it to see the effect." Hee, it doesn't matter. Just treat it as a game." Tang In waved his hand indifferently. There was a reason why Tang In insisted on buying things for Lena, even though he had said yesterday that Lena could move around freely. But in the end, Lena still chose to stay. Obviously, she was worried about bringing trouble to him. For this, Tang In was naturally moved. Since Lena chose to stay, and it would be boring to read books every day, Tang In naturally didn't mind buying something for her practice. But I heard from the book that alchemy devices are very expensive." "Haha, don't worry, I have plenty of money." Tang In, who had made a fortune today, patted his pocket with a look of wealth. "How much is this?" 3,000 gold coins. "Why don't you rob?" "Sir, robbery is illegal. This is a high-end product. If you're not satisfied, you can choose a lower grade." "How much is that?" 2,900 gold coins. "You did it on purpose." "What?" "Forget it. 3,000 will do." "Okay, sir. The total is 3,500 gold coins." What? How did it become 3,500 gold coins?" "Sir, it's like this. Because the alchemy process will always produce a lot of waste, poisonous gas, and so on, the city's government office stipulated that if you buy this alchemy device, you must buy a purification device. The purification device is 500 gold coins, so the total is 3,500 gold coins." Sir, do you still want to buy?" "Buy." "Okay, here are some basic materials that are necessary for alchemy. According to the weight, they are divided into 3 grades. The first grade is 500 gold coins, the second grade is 300 gold coins, and the third grade is 100 gold coins." "Sir, which one do you choose?" The above was the scene that happened when Tang In bought the device in the alchemy shop. Because he promised Lena last night, Tang In excitedly came to buy the alchemy device at noon. Who knew that when he went to the shop and asked, the price of a full set of alchemy devices was a few thousand gold coins. It was really shocking. But Tang In had already made a promise, so naturally, he wouldn't go back on his words. After a while, Tang In walked out of the alchemy shop with a toothache expression. The purchase of the alchemy device cost him 4,200 gold coins. In the blink of an eye, he had spent more than half of the 5,000 gold coins that he had just received. Is this still alchemy? Robbery? Tang In looked back at the shop's signboard. Sooner or later, I'll find Jack and rob him. Because the alchemy device was quite large, the shop delivered it to their doorstep. When Tang returned home with the shop's carriage, Lena was tidying up the backyard. They had decided last night to renovate the backyard into an alchemy room. Just when Tang and Lena were busy in full swing, a few hundred meters away from their house, on the third floor of the attic, there was a slovenly man looking in their direction. Of course, to be more precise, he was looking at their neighbor, Bess's backyard. At this time, Bess seemed to have just woken up. After exercising in the backyard, he began to take out his paintings inside and outside to dry them. As long as the weather was good, this was something he had to do every day. "Ha, Bose, I knew you would be here." A voice suddenly came from behind the slovenly man. Bose was not surprised. Without turning his head, he asked, "How is it, Bugnes? Did you find out?" "I found out. The news of the Aston family smuggling to the enemy country was spread by a group of hoodlums in a tavern in Southport. Those hoodlums are low-level members of the Golden Lion gang." Bugnes walked to Bose's side and looked at Bess's backyard. "It really is the Robert family." Bose's tone was as if he had expected it. "Yes, but what can we do about it? 6 years ago, Ghostface assassinated the former mayor and Earl Robert took over. 5 years ago, Ghostface assassinated the Brotherhood's president, causing the Golden Lion gang to replace him and become one of the 3 major gangs in Lion City." Bose paused. "At that time, I suspected that this Bess was Ghostface." "Yes, at that time, including the recent few attacks, the Robert family was the beneficiary. We had no choice but to turn our attention to this matter. In terms of age, Ghostface should be around Bess's age." Bugnes sighed. "All the conditions are met, but Bess's strength is not enough. Strength can be hidden, but fighting aura can't be hidden. I've said it many times. We've also tested it a few times and even invited an Earth rank warrior to appraise it. This Bess's cultivation is at the level of a beginner warrior," Bugnes said calmly. "Yes, fighting aura cannot be hidden. A high-level warrior's perception of a low-level warrior will not be wrong." Bose shook his head. "I've fought with Ghostface more than 10 times. His fighting aura should be at the peak of a high-level warrior. So, even if this Bess wants to do it, he has the will, but not the power." "Yes, that's the truth, but my feeling," Bose frowned, "my feeling is telling me that this Bess is very suspicious." "Your feeling was wrong last night. Cough, cough, that was an accident." Bose's face turned red. "Huh." Bugnes laughed, but did not say anything. "What's that guy doing next door?" Bose narrowed his eyes. "That device is used for alchemy, right? TSK. So rich." Bugnes smacked his lips. The two of them stood in the attic for a while before Bose clapped his hands. "Let's go." Bugnes smiled. "You're not going to watch anymore? When I catch Ghostface, and it's this Bess, I'll make a flower out of his face." Recently, Lion City has not been peaceful. The Iron Blood Association, controlled by Earl Blake's family, is getting restless. I'm afraid that something will happen. Isn't that normal? The Aston family will definitely compromise. Only the Blake family is left. Won't they fight to the death? We won't be able to sleep peacefully for a while. Damn it. Chapter 69. In a lush forest, the ground was covered in layers of fallen leaves. Unknown birds were chirping in the distance, making the place even more tranquil. At this moment, a person who looked like a butler walked in the forest with his hands behind his back, stepping on the rotten leaves. He did not seem to have any purpose, looking like he was taking a stroll after a meal. Suddenly, a figure jumped up from the tree beside him. In the blink of an eye, the figure turned into 3 blood-red silhouettes and arrived in front of the housekeeper, ignoring the distance between them. Red light flashed between the eyebrows, throat, and heart. Such a terrifying speed, such a ruthless attack. It was really a classic assassination in the jungle. However, the butler did not think so. He shook his head lightly. He stretched out his right hand, seemingly slow but actually fast. A dagger suddenly appeared, ignoring the attack on the heart and eyebrows, and stabbed into the heart of the sneaky figure. Bang! The figure collapsed. Ah! An uncontrollable scream came from afar. Too many flaws, no good. The butler commented on the assassination. After a while, a figure with a pale face crawled out from the bushes and said angrily, "It's not bad to be able to train to this level in such a short time. It's only you, old butler. If it was anyone else, I would have succeeded." The ordinary-looking face with long and narrow eyes was Tang Yin. "If it was really me, do you think you would have been able to jump up just now?" The old butler said calmly. Tang Yin was speechless. The old butler spoke again. "The skill, empty kill, requires an aura of mutual destruction. If you don't succeed, you'll die trying. You need to experience this well. Also, your body movement is still too weak. You can only create 3 blood shadows, which are easily seen through. Once the great mastery empty kill is used, the area 10 zhang above the target will be filled with blood shadows. Unstoppable. Empty kill, learning requirement, 2,000 blood chi. Instant skill, the moment the target looks up, the Grim Reaper's scythe will descend. Cooldown time, 3 minutes. Consumes 300 blood chi. Tang Yin's blood chi was initially 1830, but after the battle at Austin Castle, his blood chi soared to 2,500, meeting the learning requirements of some skills. That night, he had inexplicably fought with Ghostface and suffered a crushing defeat. This triggered Tang Yin. His mission to find Ghastly Face's true identity had yet to be completed. He would definitely have to face Ghastly Face again in the future. If this happened every time, what was the point of looking for him? "Old butler, other than void kill, what other skills can I learn?" Tang Yin asked eagerly. "Don't bite off more than you can chew. If you could master chaotic flowers, you wouldn't have been defeated in one move." Ahem. Tang Yin's face turned red. He smiled awkwardly and said, "I just started practicing. I can't compete with him in terms of quality, but we can use quantity to crush him." The old butler sighed. "Forget it. There's no harm in telling you. You won't be able to learn this skill for the time being. It's the killing intent in the status skill tree. Killing intent. Learning requirement. 2,000 blood chi points. The killer's will, the target's nightmare. Can be used to intimidate and track. Consumes 10 blood chi per second. Killing intent." Tang Yin muttered, then rolled his eyes. "Can't learn it? Old butler, don't look down on me, all right?" The old butler ignored Tang Yin's words. "Actually, you've seen killing intent before." Tang Yin asked in surprise. "Oh, when you first met Ghastly Face last night, the icy aura that enveloped you was killing intent." Tang Yin instantly recalled the feeling of falling into an ice cave that night. He nodded in understanding. "How do I practice this? Hurry up and teach me." The old butler shook his head. "You'll have to figure this out yourself. Actually, if you kill enough people, you'll naturally understand this feeling." "What's this?" Tang Yin was dumbfounded. "Please, at least give me a hint." "Hint? That works too. If you're willing, I can release killing intent and let you experience it yourself." Tang Yin was overjoyed. He quickly said, "I'm willing, of course I'm willing." "Are you sure?" "I'm sure. As you wish." The old butler glanced at him. Boom! Tang Yin was stunned. His body fell rapidly, as if he was falling into an abyss. Before he could exclaim, the scene changed instantly. There were mountains of corpses and seas of blood in front of him. It was a massacre. Tang Yin found himself in a pool of blood. The viscous blood reached his lips, and the smell of blood lingered around his nose. Woo! Tang Yin struggled with all his might, but he couldn't move an inch. In the blink of an eye, the pool of blood completely submerged him. Bang! Something seemed to break in his mind. Everything before him was pitch black. Tang Yin, who was standing outside in a daze, lost all the light in his eyes. Bang! His body collapsed. A moment later, not far away, his body gathered again. Tang Yin stood there in a daze for about a quarter of an hour. Phew! He let out a long sigh. He looked at the old butler, who was still indifferent, with a complicated expression. "You win. You did it on purpose. I'm not that bored." With that, the old butler turned and left. "Continue with your practice." The next morning, Tang Yin got up groggily. He didn't sleep well last night. As soon as he closed his eyes, there were mountains of corpses and seas of blood in front of him. Men, women, the elderly, children. All kinds of tragic deaths appeared in his mind. He staggered down the stairs. The hall was empty. When he opened the back door, he saw that the courtyard had been divided into two. Most of the left side had been built into a room for alchemy. Lena was washing clothes in the open space on the right side. When she heard the door open, Lena turned around. "Good morning." Didn't sleep well last night? You don't look too good." "Yes, I'm fine. It would be strange if he could sleep." "Old butler, you must have done it on purpose." "Are you sure?" "Yes." Tang In suddenly shivered and woke up in an instant. "Yes, I'm sure." F***CK. He was almost traumatized by the old housekeeper. Every time the old housekeeper wanted to do something to Tang In, he would simply say, "Are you sure?" And Tang In would just nod his head foolishly every time. "Hey, are these my clothes?" Lena tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "Yes, I saw them in the carriage, so I washed them for you." Thank you." Tang In scratched his head and said embarrassedly, "It's nothing." Lena smiled and turned around. She picked up a light-colored fluffy dress and washed it. It was the end of autumn and the beginning of winter. The water in the well was very cold. Lena's hands had turned red. "It's so inconvenient without a washing machine," Tang In muttered. Lena tilted her head. "Washing machine? What's that?" It's a machine that automatically washes clothes." "Automatically washes clothes? Is that okay?" Seeing that Lena was interested, Tang In simply sat down on the steps and gestured. "You see, washing clothes by hand means rubbing up and down, left and right. But if we have a bucket, well, it's best that the bucket is not too heavy. Put a pulsator at the bottom of it, then put the clothes, water, and things to remove stains in. Finally, use a power system that can keep rotating to drive the pulsator, so that the clothes and water inside are mixed in all directions. This way, the stains will be removed. Do you understand?" "What's a pulsator?" The winter sun gradually rose. It was warm and had a magical power that made people unable to help but fall asleep. A man from the modern world was describing the magical power of modern machines to a woman from another world on the steps of his backyard. The woman listened very attentively and raised her hand to ask some questions from time to time. The man from the modern world also had a smattering of knowledge, so he kept gesturing the appearance of the machine, its functions, and so on. A weak butterfly began to slowly flap its wings. Little did it know that it was brewing a storm in the distance. P.S. There are two things. 1. Bowing to thank book friends Otaku and Moju for their tips. Well, there's also book friend Boss Fi's review and update tickets. Raccoon cupped his paws and thanked again. 2. Damn, I marked the chapter name wrongly. Chapter 56 is written as Chapter 57. Note, it's just the number that's wrong. The content is correct. Forgive Raccoon, who rarely passed math since young Carrot Carrot. Chapter 70. Monday, Lion City Lord Manor Conference Hall. At this time, there were many people with big bellies and luxurious clothes gathered here. Today was a government meeting, so some nobles and politicians would attend. With the arrival of City Lord Count Robert, the meeting officially began. Requests for funds, report on work, repair the city walls. These meetings were held every week, so if nothing unexpected happened, it was undoubtedly very boring. Other than a few people who were constantly reporting, most of the nobles and politicians had already habitually turned on their sleep mode. At this time, Bevan stood up and criticized the government office for being too slow and for not being able to start construction on the pier. The head of the government office tried his best to pull his fat body up from the chair. Then he began to narrate all kinds of reasons in a cadence, such as there were too many unruly people, the request to increase the demolition fee, the city construction department not cooperating, and the work could not be carried out. He rambled on and on for a long time, and finally came to a conclusion. Anyway, it was not the government office's fault. The city construction department director was unhappy. He was just about to request for funds to support his 13th lover, but who would have thought that this guy would come out of nowhere? Thus, he stood up and began to complain, saying that the government office was stuck with the funds and did not give out the funds. saying that the city construction department facilities were old and needed money urgently for repairs. Thus, the two directors of the government office and the city construction department started to curse at each other, escalating from a war of words to a personal attack. And finally, the city construction department director threw a boot over, escalating into a fight. The government office director was too fat and could not bend over to take off his shoe, so he threw the cup on the table at him. His aim was not good, and the cup did not hit the target, but the tea inside affected many people. Thus, the fight escalated from a one-on-one fight to a group fight. The nobles and celebrities at the side were delighted when they saw this. Oh, there's a show to watch. Thus, they immediately switched from sleep mode to heckling mode. For a moment, the conference hall was bustling with noise. As for Bevan, who had first raised the issue, he sat down with a livid expression. This group of pigs, this fight was finally stopped by Count Robert, who gave the two directors who started the incident 50 slaps each, ordering them to quickly start the construction of the pier. The conference hall returned to normal, and the meeting resumed. The nobles who had been watching the show saw that it was over, so they went back to sleep mode until the meeting was about to end. Just as these nobles wiped their saliva and tidied up their clothes, waiting for the host to announce the end of the meeting, they stood up and left. Count Austin, who had been sitting silently with a gloomy expression, stood up. There's something else? The nobles sat back down in confusion. Although everyone was very disdainful of this country bumpkin pirate noble, he was still the deputy city lord after all. He still had to show some respect. Count Austin's words were very brief. I hereby announce that the Austin family will give up the ownership of the new pier to the Robert family. With that, Count Austin left the government office with a dark expression. Yo, that's really short. The nobles were overjoyed. It seemed that this uncultured pirate still had his redeeming qualities. At least he could not make up so many words. Wait, what did he just say? Give up the ownership of the new pier. Boom. When most of the people reacted, the hall was in an uproar. No one dared to believe their own ears. A dock? What was that? That was an assembly line that produced gold coins. The Aston family actually gave it up just like that. Even if they were uncultured, they weren't fools. Give it to the Robert family. At this moment, someone remembered the second half of Count Austin's words. Immediately, all the nobles shifted their gazes upwards. Originally, there were 4 counts sitting there. Now that Count Austin had left, there were only 3 left. The person involved, Count Robert, seemed rather calm. At this moment, he raised his teacup and slowly sipped his tea. Count Matthew's expression was first one of shock, then it slowly turned into one of indescribable complexity. As for Count Blake, he did not even try to hide his anger. Meeting adjourned. Knock. Count Robert placed his teacup on the table and stood up to leave. Humph. Count Blake snorted coldly and left with a flick of his sleeves. Sigh, let's all disperse. Count Matthew sighed softly and walked out of the meeting hall. The nobles looked at each other. No one had expected such shocking news to come out at the end of the meeting. Everyone had complicated expressions and dispersed while discussing amongst themselves. Of course, not all nobles were like that. At least, Bevan, Dirk, and the other heads of the 5 families were all delighted. Lord Bevan's plan is truly flawless. It's truly admirable. Viscount Dirk praised. Bevan shook his head and chuckled. Hee, it's the result of everyone's concerted efforts. Bevan merely came up with some ideas. Lord Bevan, you're too humble. That's right, Bevan cupped his hands. Everyone. Yes, there's still the Blake family that is yet to be conquered. It won't be too late to praise Bevan after everything is done. With Lord Bevan's strategy, wouldn't the Blake family be captured without a fight? Haha, that's reasonable. Lord Bevan, tell us, what should we do? Very simple. Bevan clenched his fist and extended it. Just attack. Attack? Bevan nodded. That's right, there's a way to use troops. When we were weak, we could use some strange moves to achieve unexpected results, but it was inevitably too risky. Now that we're strong, we naturally have to attack and crush them, not giving them a chance to breathe. That's right. That's how it should be. Then when do we attack? The Blake family is already on guard, so the sooner the better. Yes, tonight, Bevan said decisively as he changed his fist into a palm strike. Okay, the plan was set, and success was right in front of them. The 5 Viscounts naturally didn't dare to delay and hurried back to prepare. At this moment, Gray walked into the meeting hall. Young Master Bevan, that Earl Austen has already left. Do you think we should? Haha, let's go. It's not good to keep them waiting. Bevan rubbed his hands. This isn't the demeanor of a victor. More than 5 kilometers to the east of the Eastern City District, there was a hunting park for nobles to pass time. A carriage with a golden lion head symbol drove out of the meeting hall in the city and arrived here. Bevan saw Earl Austen holding a crossbow in the south of the hunting park. Earl Austen, I'm sorry to keep you waiting. Bevan bowed. Earl Austen handed the crossbow to the butler beside him and glanced at Bevan. The younger generation will surpass us in time. I didn't think that my Austen family, which had dominated the sea, would fall at your hands after coming to a small city in the south. Earl Austen, actually say no more. The winner takes all. Give it to me. Bevan shook his head and gave a look behind him. Gray took a step forward, bowed, and handed the 3 pages to Count Austen. Receiving the 3 pages, Earl Austen furrowed his brows and said angrily in a low voice, "What do you mean by this?" Bevan blinked in confusion and asked in surprise, "What do you mean by what do you mean?" Earl Austen's eyes flashed fiercely. "Stop pretending. I have an account book, and you're giving me 3 pages? Could it be that your Robert family still wants my family's old doc? An account book?" Bevan and Gray looked at each other and cried out in surprise. "Oh, you're acting more and more like it. That means you don't plan on returning the battle energy cultivation method?" Battle energy cultivation method? Bevan opened his mouth and looked woodenly at the furious Earl Austen. Good. Good. Ha! Earl Austen was so angry that he started laughing. "You're really something playing this game with me. Good. Then let's fight to the death." Bevan barely recovered from his shock and hurriedly said, "Earl Austen, there's a misunderstanding here. We asked a thief to steal the account book, and that thief only gave us 3 pages. Who would believe that?" After arguing for a while, Earl Austen left angrily with the 2 pages. Search the entire city according to these 2 sketches. Earl Austen handed the 2 pieces of paper to the butler with a dark expression. Although it was a bit blurry, it was still possible to see that it was Tang In and Jack's disguised faces from the 2 sketches. Tang In's aquiline nose was especially eye-catching. "Sir, do you believe what they said?" the butler asked as he took the paper. "Believe my ass." Earl Austen gritted his teeth. "Go to the Thief Union and post another assassination mission. I want to buy Bevan's life for 10,000 gold coins." Chapter 71. Raccoon has created a group. 2788-19949. You can join if you're free. Although it's already over yesterday, I still need to mark it as the 3rd watch because Raccoon is still awake. Carrot, please add. Please recommend. The weather at the end of autumn and the beginning of winter was abnormal. The sun was shining brightly in the morning, but gray clouds covered the city in the afternoon. It was going to rain heavily soon. F***CK. Do we have to be so unlucky? We were fine when we left. Tang In mumbled as he continued to lean against the corner of the wall and looked at the square building in front of him. Although the style of the building was rigid, it gave off a solemn feeling under the contrast of the black stone material. It gave people a sense of security. Perhaps that was the intention of the designer, as this was the police station of Lion City. Of course, Tang In was not here to turn himself in. In fact, he was here to investigate. If it was not for the letter from the mysterious person, he would have been here a few days ago. The person in Lion City who knew Grimace the best was undoubtedly Bose. He had been studying Grimace for many years. Ugh. Although he had not caught him, he must have collected a lot of relevant information. And this information was exactly what Tang In needed. His understanding of Grimace was still too poor. He had no idea where to start looking for his real identity. After thinking about it, Tang In had no choice but to turn his attention to Bose. Going up and asking directly was definitely out of the question. Other than rewarding him with a domineering chop of fighting energy, Bose would not think of anything else. Tang En's goal was Bo's office, where there should be what he was looking for. If a mouse wanted to wander into a cat's nest, it would be seeking death if it did not investigate carefully. Tang En had been here for a while, but he had not found anything. He had not even met Bose yet. However, he was not in a hurry. Ever since he was stopped at the Flame Dragon Union, Tang En was very patient in his preparations. Tang En was surprised to see a troop of police cavalry in bronze armor rushing out of the main door and heading south. What was going on? How many batches was this? However, Tang En was no longer surprised by this situation. This was because during the 2 hours that he continued to wait, more than 10 teams of garrison cavalry rushed out. On average, there was a team every 10 minutes. Every time, the direction was not fixed. There were all sorts of directions. The security in this world isn't that great. While he was sighing with emotion, Tang En suddenly raised his head. There was a trace of coldness on his face. Gradually, the light rain began to float. F***, if I had known, I would have driven the carriage out. Tang En grumbled, then glanced at the police station. Forget it, let's stop here for today. Tang En did not plan to sneak into the police station today. Seeing that it was going to rain, he naturally had to retreat. Braving the drizzle, Tang En quickly walked towards the southwest. However, after walking 2 streets, he realized that something was wrong. Based on the traffic in Lei City, even if it was raining, there should still be people coming and going on this main road. Why is this place so deserted? There was not even a single person on the street. Just as Tang En was puzzled, a group of strong men dressed in red came from the alley. They were all dressed in red and had the words, "I am a hoodlum," carved on their faces. When the 2 sides met, the group of people dressed in red looked over. Then, the person in front waved his hand. The one in black, "Kill him." Zung, zung, zung. The sound of swords being unsheathed could be heard. Kill. The group of people dressed in red waved their snow-white swords and charged over. Tang En turned his head and looked behind him, then looked at both sides. Black. Who is it? Isn't it just me? F***. Tang En hurriedly waved his hand. You have the wrong person. I'm just passing by. The man in red who was charging at the front sized up Tang En. Black clothes and black pants. How can it be so coincidental? Kill him. F***. Tang En gloomily turned around and ran. What kind of world is this? Is it wrong to wear black clothes and black pants? Perhaps it was the subtle influence of the system, but Tang En was now more and more fond of the inconspicuous black and gray. Who knew that one day he would be unjustly attacked because of this and be hunted down on the streets? You're courting death. Don't blame me. Tang En looked at the group of men in red who were chasing after him. His eyes flashed coldly, and he turned around and ran into the alley. The man in red in front shouted excitedly, That's a dead end. Brothers, go in and kill him. Charge! Shouting the slogan, a group of 10 or so burly men rushed into the alley, scrambling to be the first. The alley was not deep, only about 10 feet. At this time, Tang En turned around and stood still. Run. Why aren't you running? Let me see if you can run again. Tang En raised his head and looked at the sky. The rain seemed to be getting heavier. F***, I'm talking to you. Didn't you hear me? The man in red who was ignored was very dissatisfied. He took a few steps forward and scratched the wall with his long knife from time to time, trying to create a somewhat terrifying atmosphere. Sorry, I'm in a hurry. The man in red only felt a chill on his neck. Tang En passed by him like a ghost and pounced on the group of men behind him. Plop. Bang! Screams, sounds of bodies falling, and the sound of long knives falling. In just a few seconds, everything returned to silence. Huff, huff. A man in red fell behind. Seeing that the situation was not good, he quickly turned around and ran. Hearing that there were no more sounds behind him, his scalp became even more numb. Fortunately, the exit was in front of him. The man in red stepped out of the alley and was immediately overjoyed. But before he could take out his other leg, the back of his collar was grabbed and lifted up. His figure disappeared in the alley. Help! Spare! The sound disappeared and Tang In appeared in the alley. Brothers in black, chop. Tang In, who had just walked out of the alley, turned his head in surprise and saw a group of men in red rushing over. Damn, is there an end to it? Tang In quickly retreated into the alley, sprinted a few steps, kicked a few times on the wall, and flipped over the wall. The man in red who ran over first rushed into the alley and paused. More than 10 corpses were lying on the ground, and the short wall was covered in blood. The drizzle quickly turned into red water droplets and slid down the wall. The people who came in later saw this scene and couldn't help but fall silent. Then, damn it, call someone to block him. Chop him to death and avenge our brothers. I want to chop him to pieces. The group of men in red suddenly exploded and began to clamor and call the people around to surround him. Tang In ran quickly in the rain. These few streets were already in complete chaos. From time to time, he could see burly men in black and red fighting. Screams and shouts of killing could be heard incessantly. It's him, surround him. Whoosh! Tang In suddenly ran out in a Z shape, flicked his dagger, and instantly drew a red line. The group of people in front suddenly fell over, and most of them covered their wrists and rolled on the ground. Breakthrough. Motherf asterisk her. Get more people and surround this area for me. Tang In, who was galloping, suddenly turned around and accelerated. Like an arrow leaving the bow, he pounced on the middle-aged man in red who seemed to be the commander. Ding, ding, chi, chi, chi. After a short exchange, the middle-aged man in red's defense was broken, and more than a dozen dagger shadows disappeared from his body. Bang! The middle-aged man, who was constantly spurting blood, fell on his back. Twain rode away, leaving behind a trail of dust. Hiss! The surrounding men in red gasped. Who is this? He came and went freely in the crowd, taking the commander's head as if he was taking something out of his pocket. It was really terrifying. Just as Tang Un was dashing left and right in the rain, killing in all directions, Lena was in the house, studying the washing machine on the blueprint, lost in thought. It's best to use green feather wood, as the material of the wooden barrel is light enough to be carried. The pulsating wheel can be made from the bones of the purling. Well, it's best to use the breastbone. How to solve the power system. Drip, drip, drip. Lena looked up in surprise and saw a lot of raindrops falling from the window. On my clothes. With a scream, Lena rushed out of the house. The clothes hanging in the backyard were mostly wet, and Lena hurriedly took them off one by one. Looking at the light-colored fluffy dress in front of her, Lena's eyes showed a trace of complexity. She found it in Mr. Arthur's carriage when she was tidying things up. It was a woman's evening dress. The fabric was of high quality and expensive, so it should be a noble's clothing. Is it Mr. Arthur's sweetheart's? Lena's heart suddenly flashed with a trace of sadness. Quickly shaking her head, Lena picked up the clothes and walked home. Lena, don't think too much. Chapter 72. The chaos on the street was still ongoing. The gradually increasing raindrops could not extinguish the fiery momentum of the two sides. However, there were some changes in the offensive and defensive sides. At first, the Redcoat gang was strong and chased after the men in black who were alone. Now, the Blackcoat gang reacted and rushed over with a large number of fresh troops. The strength of both sides was almost equal, and the situation was in a stalemate. Of course, this had little to do with Tang In. He was still chased by a large group of Redcoat gang. In fact, if one looked carefully, one could see that Tang In's outfit was different from the men in black. The men in the Blackcoat gang were all wearing close-fitting short gowns that were good for close combat, while Tang In was wearing a medium cotton shirt. Some of the men chasing after him might have noticed this, but now that they were all killed by Tang In, they naturally would not say something like, "Sorry, I mistook you for someone else. Let's go." "Stop. I'll kill you if you keep running." "You can't run after offending our Iron Blood Association." "Damn it, don't run." The men chasing behind him were depressed. "You slashed me once, I slashed you once. At most, you were good at fighting. You slashed people 7 or 8 times, they slashed you once. This was called street fighting. But now you slash someone once and ran, then suddenly slashed again and ran again. You don't pay attention. You don't have the spirit of the underworld at all. Tangan was not in a good mood at this time. An assassin walking on the street was being chased by hooligans just because he was wearing black. Damn it, is there still law? Is there still law? Moreover, they chased him across 2 streets, and these 2 streets were densely packed with fighting. As a result, there were more and more people chasing and slashing him. This world is really bad. Those men in black who thought that Tangan was on their side wanted to help, but when they saw the situation behind him, they hurriedly moved to the side. Damn it, what kind of thing did this brother do to anger the heavens? He dared to be chased by hundreds of people. Beep, beep. Seeing that Tangan was about to run to the end of the 3rd street, a mournful whistle suddenly sounded. Thud, 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 thud. In the distance, a few teams of garrison cavaliers stepped on the water and patted their horses to rush over. Phew! Tangan heaved a long sigh of relief. He flicked his wrist and hid the dagger. Then he stuck close to the side of the road and prepared to leave. Hey, the one in black, don't run. I'm talking to you. Why are you leaving? Tangan turned his head with a wooden expression and saw a garrison cavalryman dismount from his horse in the heavy rain, walking quickly towards him with a chain in his hand. Inhale, exhale. Tangan took a deep breath and stepped on the water, splashing on the ground. His figure broke through the rain like a thunder and arrived in front of the cavalry in an instant. Whoosh! The cavalryman was startled and subconsciously swung the chain in his hand. Tangan grabbed the chain and pulled. The cavalryman stumbled forward a few steps and arrived in front of Tangan. Before the cavalryman could react, Twain shook the chain and wrapped it around the cavalryman's neck. Then, he dragged him into the alley next to him. Thump, thump. Is it against the law to wear black? Thump, thump. Can IF asterisk king wear black? Thump, thump. There's so many be asterisk cheese in black on the streets. Why me? Hey, what are you doing? Someone. Beep. A garrison cavalier at the entrance of the alley was shocked when he saw the situation inside. He quickly called for backup. Throwing the chain aside, the unlucky cavalryman fell to the ground with a thud. Tangan cleaned the blood on his fist on the cavalryman's pant armor. Then, he pushed off the wall and flipped over the top of the wall. Although the garrison cavaliers had horses, they were too few in number. They couldn't form an encirclement. So, they could only watch as Tangan disappeared into the rain. This afternoon, the streets of Lion City were in a complete mess. The garrison hall was like a market. There were many people going in and out. In the hall, a brawny man who didn't care about his appearance was waving his hand and giving orders. You there's a fight at South Harbor Pier 25. Bring a group of cavalrymen to take a look. It's you. Pass down my orders. If you want to catch more people, just catch the leaders. Don't send any scum to the garrison hall. Can't you see that it's almost full? Also, don't bring in any injured ones. I don't care if they die. What are you doing? Chief, one of our brothers is injured. Bo stepped forward and identified him. He asked uncertainly, Who is this? This is Bill, sir. Bose opened his mouth. Looking at the cavalryman whose face was swollen like a pig's head on the stretcher, he suddenly became furious. Damn it! How dare you hit the garrison cavaliers? How dare you? Pass down my orders. If you catch any scum again, punch them in the face. Didn't you hear me? Bose roared. Yes. The cavalryman quivered. He stood straight and placed his fist on his chest as he made a standard cavalry salute. Plop. That cavalryman was originally carrying one end of the stretcher. Now that he saluted out of reflex, the unlucky cavalryman in his hand naturally fell to the ground. Immediately, a horrifying scream was heard. Bose turned his head and waved his hand as he couldn't bear to watch. Hurry up and send him to the infirmary. Yes. A few cavalrymen lifted the stretcher and left dejectedly. Bose, the situation isn't good. It's getting out of control. A vigorous middle-aged man walked in through the door. That won't happen, Bugnes. The Iron Blood Association is relying on the element of surprise. When the aristocratic alliance comes back to their senses, the two sides will naturally be in a deadlock. That makes sense. Bugnes nodded. He then chuckled and said, I really didn't think that Earl Blake would be so decisive. He just finished a meeting in the morning and actually made his move in the afternoon. Yes, the methods of these old fellows can't be underestimated. They were originally at an absolute disadvantage, but after this sudden attack, they gained a lot of advantages. Bose smacked his lips and said, which side do you favor? What does it have to do with me? If I have to choose, I still favor the aristocratic alliance. They have already established their momentum. The Blake family sneak attack is only a matter of time. It doesn't have much significance. Bose hesitated for a bit before giving his choice. I think so too. The Robert family is going to make a killing this time. Bugnes sighed with emotion. Even if they make a killing, they won't give us any money. Bose laughed loudly and then said, Let's study how to deal with the chaos that will happen in the next few days. Right? Where's the chief? How come I haven't seen him since the meeting? Is there a need to ask? That old fox must have fallen ill. Damn, his eyesight is pretty good. He knew something was going to happen today. P.S. Bowing to thank the readers, JHD 121 and Angstone for their tips. My hands were cheap. It was clearly 2,400 words, but after deleting, it became 1,900 words. I had no choice but to add another paragraph. Can you see which paragraph in this chapter is fake? Chidian. Com welcomes readers to visit and read our latest, fastest, and hottest serialized works on Chidian Originals. Chapter 73. The heavy rain lasted for 3 days. It was like the beginning of winter as the temperature in Lion City plummeted. For the past few days, other than driving the carriage and bringing Lena out to buy some alchemy items, Tang had been training his skills in the system. What stopped Tang from going out was not only the heavy rain, but also the chaotic environment in Lion City. According to Alan, the East and North districts were better. There were occasional conflicts in the West district, but at the South Harbor, there were fights happening almost all the time. With the chaos in the city, the police station would definitely be working around the clock. Therefore, Tangen's plan to sneak had to be put aside for the time being. Knock, knock, knock. A series of hurried knocks on the door. Tang opened the door with sleepy eyes. He had been training in the system for a long time last night. I did it. Lena jumped excitedly outside the door. What? The washing machine. I got the washing machine out. Not bad, continue. A what? The washing machine. Tang was shocked when he came back to his senses. Yes, follow me. Lena pulled Tang down the stairs. At this moment, on the right side of the backyard, there were a few strange-looking things. There was a double-layered wooden bucket, a square box with a handle, and a yellow rope-like thing connecting the two. This is a washing machine? Tang was confused. I've seen pulsating wheels, rollers, stirs. What is this? Lena nodded and said firmly, That's right. Tang took a few steps forward. All right, this wooden bucket was the inner cylinder of the washing machine. This is the pulsating wheel you were talking about. Why do I feel like it's a bone? It's a bone. This is the breastbone of a purling. It's very similar to the pulsating wheel you were talking about. Lena said as if it was a matter of fact. Okay, then this is the gear you were talking about. Gears. Tang looked at the rows of things at the bottom of the barrel and was shocked. These are teeth, right? That's right. These are the teeth of the sharp-beaked beast. They just so happen to meet the requirements of gear. Tang sweated profusely. F*CK. This is really a real tooth, Will. What about this? Tang pointed at the square box with a handle. This is the power unit. Lena raised her head and said proudly, I flipped through a lot of books before I thought of it. There were 2 fixed gravitational spheres inside. This gravity ball was the result of an alchemist's failed experiment. It was mainly for children to play with, because as long as the 2 are stirred together, they will have a strong attraction to each other. Therefore, I only need to turn the handle for a moment to stir them and give them a push force. These 2 small balls will attract each other and drive the gears inside to operate automatically. Lena said excitedly in one breath. She couldn't help but pause for a moment before continuing. Then, through this bull tendon. Oh, it should be the caterpillar. It drives the gears under the bucket, and the clothes can be automatically washed. Gravity sphere? Bull tendon? Teeth. Tang and touched his forehead and felt a little confused for a moment. Have you tried this thing before? Lena shook her head. No, I just finished and went to call you. Then try it. Practice is the only standard to test whether an item is successful or not. Tang waved his hand. For a moment, he felt a sense of mission to promote the advancement of technology in this world. Okay, I'll go get some clothes. Lena trotted into the house. No, just this one. Tang casually took off his black robe and threw it into the wooden bucket. Then, he added some water into it. Who will start it? You do it. After all, this is your first alchemy item. Tang smiled. Okay. Lena nodded solemnly and put her hand on the handle. She took a deep breath and turned it. Clang, 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 clang. Why does it feel like driving a train? Tang listened to the sound coming from the small box and couldn't help but think to himself. After about 3 minutes, the clang sound became faster and faster. The bull tendon track also began to turn slowly. So far, everything was going smoothly. Lena suddenly let go of her hand and took a step back. The two watched as the track began to slow down. The sound of water faintly came from the wooden bucket. Apparently, it had begun to stir. Lena excitedly grabbed Tang's arm and looked at the item that took her 3 days and 3 nights to make with a sense of accomplishment. Clang, 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 clang. The sound became faster and faster. The track sped up and water splashed out from the wooden bucket. Huh, why does it feel like something is wrong? Tang looked at the wooden bucket thoughtfully. Buzz. At this time, the rotating wooden bucket also began to make sounds. Clang, 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 buzz, 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 buzz. This thing is not normal. Why don't we stop first? Tang looked at the rapidly rotating wooden bucket, and his eyelids twitched. He said worriedly, Lena covered her mouth and screamed. What's wrong? Lena looked sad. I was thinking about how to make it spin and forgot how to make it stop. What? Tang was shocked. Boom! At this moment, the rapidly spinning barrel suddenly exploded, and all the parts scattered in all directions. Fall! Tang reacted quickly. He grabbed Lena's shoulder and threw her behind him. Chaotic flower. The black dagger flashed red, and a beautiful flower of blood appeared. However, before it could form, it was forcefully pushed forward by Tang. Hiss, 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 ding, ding, ding. Some of the granular things were blocked by the layers of blade light and were knocked away. Before Tang could breathe a sigh of relief, his vision suddenly turned black and a strong wind blew. He subconsciously formed a cross in front of his body. Bang! He felt pain in his hand, and his body flew into the air and hit the wall of the house. Everything happened in an instant. When Lena came back to her senses, she saw that the small courtyard was already in a mess. The ground and walls were full of the remains of her first alchemy item. Mr. Arthur, how are you? Where are you hurt? I'm fine. Tang groaned and stood up. With a clang, he threw away the half of the ripple wheel that caused him to hit the wall. When he was about to put away the dagger, his heart skipped a beat. He looked down and saw a white tooth in the hole of the black dagger. Damn, this is ridiculous. Tang was sweating profusely. Fortunately, he had activated chaotic flower in advance. Otherwise, with the impact of the explosion and the penetrating power of the sharp tooth, he would have been a blood sacrifice for Lena's first alchemy item. I'm sorry, it's all my fault. Lena's face was pale. Looking at Tang's bruised arm, she was full of self-blame. It's okay. Inventions have to fail sometimes. Tang comforted her and then patted his thigh. I know. I'm also responsible. I forgot to tell you that the washing machine needs to be rotated in a positive direction. No wonder when he saw the wooden barrel spinning just now, he felt strange. Positive direction? Yes, you can only wash the stains by mixing it in a positive direction. If you rotate it in a positive direction, Tang patted Lena's shoulder. Your direction is right. At least you have invented the washing machine's dehydration function in advance. Lena was stunned. Mr. Arthur, where are you going? To apply medicine. Tang Yin's shoulders drooped weakly. Damn, it hurts. Lena stuck out her tongue. Let me help you. I just made a beginner's wound medicine a few days ago. Don't. Tang Yin was shocked. I have medicine in my room. Use mine, use mine. Bowing to thank the readers, Grim Reaper Sirius and Birdie Can Fly for their tips. Well, Raccoon has a friend who is Raccoon's Guide. If you're interested in science fiction, you can read his book, Dark Magic Swordsman of the Apocalypse. Chapter 74. Noon. The Robber Clan's mansion. Bevan rushed out of his study. The attic was in picturesque disorder, the weathered bluestone floor, and the orderly guards and servants. This is the clan. Every time Bevan saw this place, he couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. Although it was said that nobles were destined by the heavens, and that as long as the first generation laid down the foundation, the later generations only needed to sit back and enjoy the fruits of others' labor, it was truly difficult to understand. However, only those who were involved in it would know how difficult it was. Destruction was always easier than construction. Developing and strengthening a family might require the efforts of several generations, but destroying a family was just an insignificant wave. Thinking of this, Bevan began to hate that ridiculous older brother of his. As the eldest son, and living in this sort of environment, instead of worrying about the clan, he ran off to paint. How ridiculous! But within this hatred, Bevan knew that he was also somewhat happy. Ever since he was a child, he had always been interested in managing various things. If it wasn't for his older brother, he probably would have been like those second-generation nobles who only knew how to eat, drink, and play. He probably wouldn't have had the chance to be put in an important position by his father. While thinking, Bevan arrived at an old building. This was the center of the clan, where every generation's patriarch worked. Bevan stared at the bronze door with a fiery gaze, then let out a long sigh and walked in. One day, I'll be sitting in here. The door to the patriarch's office wasn't closed. When Bevan walked in, Count Robert was drinking tea and resting. Lord Father. Bevan bowed respectfully. Sit. Count Robert waved his hand, pointing at the teacup on the table. Drink some tea. Bevan picked up the teacup and sat down calmly. You don't like it? This is Wuchi tea. It really is a bit bland. Count Robert chuckled. Only us old fellows like it. No, it's not bad to drink it occasionally. Bevan picked up the teacup. Count Robert pressed down on the teacup. If you don't like it, don't drink it. You can't force yourself to. Just like us old fellows do things slowly and carefully, we always strive for stability. We can't compare to you guys who come with such vigor. This time, I'll let you handle the affairs of the docks. You've already proven your ability. In a short month, you've brought glory and benefits to the Robert clan. You are an outstanding leader who brings glory to the clan. Bevan's heart skipped a beat, and he hurriedly got up. Thank you, Lord Father, for your praise. Count Robert nodded and continued, but Lion City is the foundation of our family. It's been a bit chaotic these few days. Father, Lion City will regain its peace tomorrow, Baywin said resolutely. That's good. In the attic, Lena stood by the stairs in a woolen blended dress. Mr. Arthur, are you ready? Not yet. I'm almost done, but I've been waiting for half an hour. A middle-aged man with a serious expression pushed open the door and walked out. He rolled his eyes in a manner that did not match his temperament. You have to understand how difficult it is for a killer to put on makeup. Wow. Lena blinked and opened her mouth in surprise. Are we going to act as father and daughter? Lena giggled and straddled Tang Un's arms. Now we'll look more alike. The corner of Tang Un's mouth twitched. Meddlesome. Perhaps it was because she was finally living the life she wanted. Lena's natural liveliness was constantly released. So even though she was slightly older than Tang Yin from the outside, Tang Yin looked more mature. Because Lena had a new idea about the structure of the washing machine, Tang Yin agreed to drive Lena to the alchemy shop after dinner. It was not that he did not trust Lena and insisted on following her. But because of the recent chaotic situation, Tang Yin did not wear black clothes when he went out to avoid trouble. Tang Yin was now familiar with the alchemy shops. The carriage trotted all the way and arrived at the entrance of an alchemy shop in the west of the city. Lena? Tang Yun and the others had just gotten off the carriage when they heard a surprised voice. Lena turned her head in surprise and suddenly shouted in surprise, "Aunt Susan!" On the side of the road, a woman with a round body and exaggerated foundation suddenly walked over quickly. "Lena, where have you been recently? I've been to the treatment center a few times, but I couldn't find you. I have something to do. Aunt Susan, why are you looking for me?" Lena grabbed Aunt Susan's hand and said. Aunt Susan's voice was loud. "What's the matter? Didn't I tell you last time that Linha Street is going to be demolished? Your small house can be compensated with at least 4 or 5 gold coins. Hurry up and go back with me to go through the procedures." "Oh, but I can't today. I'll go tomorrow." Lena looked back at Tang Yun and said, "Huh?" Aunt Susan looked suspiciously at Tang Yin and pulled Lena aside. "Who is this?" Lena hesitated. She wasn't completely joking when she said that she wanted to act as father and daughter. At least in the eyes of people who didn't know them, they really looked like a pair of father and daughter. But of course, this couldn't be said to Aunt Susan. Lena had lived with Aunt Susan since she was a child. Aunt Susan naturally knew whether she had a father or not. "Don't tell me you're being kept by someone?" Seeing Lena's hesitation, Aunt Susan's thoughts went astray. No. Lena quickly waved her hand and peeked at Tang Yin with a blushing face. Lena's expression was caught by Aunt Susan. She was more determined to guess. "Lena, I don't want to criticize you. You finally got out of the mud. Besides, even if you're looking for someone to keep you, you should find a younger one." Tang Yin was leaning against the side of the carriage at this time. He didn't seem to pay attention to this side. However, the other side of his mouth was twitching. It's really not. "Okay, Aunt Susan, I know about that matter. I'll go and find you tomorrow." While speaking, Suli was still talking. As she said this, Lena pushed Aunt Susan away. You child. Be careful not to be cheated." Aunt Susan looked back and said as she walked with a face of unwillingness. "I know. Goodbye, Aunt Susan." Lena pushed Aunt Susan away with difficulty and returned to Tang Yin with a red face. "What's wrong? What was that just now?" Tang Yin asked calmly. Nothing. That was Aunt Susan, my neighbor." Lena breathed a sigh of relief. "Oh, then go in to buy things. Let's go." Lena walked behind, looked at Tang Yin's back, and tilted her head. Tang Yin was really a layman when it came to alchemy. He was only responsible for paying. He remembered the first time he came, Lena felt very guilty after knowing the expensive price of alchemy materials. She swore that she would make a good washing machine and then sell it to Tang Yin in return. Tang Yin naturally nodded as if it was a matter of fact, but he didn't care in his heart. After all, he had spent a lot of money. These alchemy materials were just a small amount of money. After moving some things such as teeth, beef tendons, and so on into the carriage, Tang Yin was ready to drive back. At this moment, Tang Yin suddenly turned his head to the street corner. Why did the figure just now look a little familiar? Frowning and carefully looking around, Tang Yin saw a few burly men in casual clothes walking towards the street corner at the same time. "Lena, I'm sorry. I suddenly have something to do. Why don't you drive back first?" Okay. Lena was stunned, then immediately agreed and took the reins. "Arthur, and be careful." Don't worry." Tang Yin waved and quickly disappeared into the crowd. Chapter 75. This was the busiest commercial street in the West District. Even though Lian City was not very peaceful, there were still many people coming and going. There were alchemy shops, magic shops, clothing shops, and so on both sides of the street. On the south side of the commercial street, a nobleman wearing a purple cloak was walking slowly. He would enter some shops from time to time. Perhaps he did not find anything worth buying. After entering more than 10 shops, he still did not find anything. When he passed by a clothing shop with good business, the nobleman walked in again. However, this time he took a long time. After about 15 minutes, he still did not come out. At this moment, a few strong men walked in. Why is this purple cloak here? Gentlemen, you want to buy this? You are in luck. A customer thought this purple cloak was too bright and changed it. The men looked at each other. Which one did he change to? When did he leave? Black. Just now. Don't be in a hurry to leave. If you're not satisfied with the purple, we have other colors. The men rushed out of the shop. The street was bustling with activity. The nobleman was long gone. At the crossroad opposite the clothing shop, a nobleman looked away and straightened the collar of his black cloak. You want to follow me, thief? Go back and practice for another 7 or 8 years. After saying that, the nobleman hummed a tune and walked into the street. He seemed to be very familiar with this place. He turned left and right and walked past many streets and alleys. Just as he walked to the middle of an alley, a middle-aged man in green clothes suddenly appeared from the alley in front of him. He had his hands behind his back and a sword at his waist. Then, a group of men with unfriendly faces and large axes on their backs appeared behind the man. The nobleman's expression changed, and he turned around. Before he could take a few steps, he saw dozens of men with the same murderous aura walk in from the alley behind him. Huh. The nobleman laughed dryly. Why are you stopping me? The man in green snorted. Still pretending? Thief Jack, you think you can fool us with your lousy camouflage? Please. Jack smiled and spread his hands. My camouflage is not bad. You guys chased me for 3 days before you caught me. Oof. I hope you'll still be in such a good mood when you're caught. How dare you steal from the Aston family? You sure have guts. How many times do you want me to repeat myself? Jack said helplessly. It was stolen by a man called Yaya. He has triangular eyes, a hooked nose, and protruding ears. It's easy to recognize him. Go and find him. I'm just a lookout. The thing really isn't with me. He's really not here? More real than real gold. If that's the case, the green-robed man waved his hand. Then there's no need for you to live. Kill him. Whoosh. A snow-white axe was raised. The ferocious man licked his lips. His eyes were bloodshot as he rushed over. Let's go, Jack shouted. He stepped on the walls on both sides and was about to break out from the top. While he was talking nonsense just now, he had already sized up the situation on the field. The top was his best way out. However, was it really that easy? The green-robed man smirked. Suddenly, 4 men appeared on top of the wall. Following that, a wire net with a metallic glow was thrown out, sealing the path above. Damn it, Jack cursed. He opened his hands and shot out a dozen crescent blades. Ding, ding, ding. He didn't know what kind of metal this net was made of. When Jack's crescent blades hit it, other than creating a dozen sparks, there was no effect. We've chased you for 3 days. Do you think we don't know what you're capable of? You've improved a little. Jack turned around and threw out more than 10 crescent blades. Since he couldn't go up, he could only force his way through. Shio, shio, shio. The crescent blades drew out all kinds of strange arcs and enveloped the men below. Seeing this, the men quickly used their axes to block their heads. Dang, dang, dang. Jack opened his mouth. He was shocked to see the crescent blades that hit the men's bodies bounce off. Roar. The burly men roared and tore off their clothes. A full set of black plate armor covered their bodies. F*CK. Jack fell to the ground gloomily. Did they have to do this? How was he supposed to fight them? Kill. The fierce men roared in unison. They rushed forward and wanted to chop this thief into pieces. Wait. Jack quickly made a stop sign. The man in green raised his hand. What? Do you have any last words? There's no hurry. Jack laughed dryly and said, If I give you the item, can you let me live? The man in green smiled. Oh, now the item isn't with that Yaya. Jack laughed. At first it was, but I thought about it later. As the saying goes, even thieves have morals. Doing a mission is doing a mission. You can't steal it and take it. So I asked for it back. I was just about to send it over to you. Who knew that you would come knocking on my door? Humph. We can get the item even if we kill you. Give it to me. The man in green was about to swing his arm down. Wait, the item isn't with me. I hid it in a secret place. Other than me, no one can find it. So secretive? Yes, very secretive. Jack nodded. Then no one will be able to find it for a while. Since that's the case, after killing you, we'll have time to slowly find it. You're too slippery. Leaving you alive will be a disaster. Air. Jack was stunned. After a while, He raised his thumb. Good plan. You flatter me. The man in green curled his lips. Kill. The men on both sides couldn't wait any longer. They immediately raised their axes and rushed forward. In 3 steps, 2 steps, they chopped down with their axes. Bang! With a soft sound, Jack threw a crystal bottle under his feet. Chee. Suddenly, a black smoke expanded rapidly. In an instant, it covered an area of 3 feet. Where did he go? Here. Damn it, who's chopping me? You're blind. In the black smoke, the men couldn't see anything. Instantly, they were in a mess. At this time, there was a voice that kept reminding them of the location. Here. I caught him. Everyone, chop him. Clang, clang, clang. The sound of axes chopping on armor could be heard. Naturally, it was followed by a wave of curses. After a few accidental injuries, the men could only guard in front of them. They no longer dared to chop with their axes. Looking at this scene, the man in green couldn't help but frown. Guard both sides. Don't let him break through. Whoosh! Before he finished speaking, a figure shot out like an arrow and rushed toward the end of the alley. Stay here. The man in green stepped forward. With a clang, the blue longsword on his back pierced toward Jack's back. Jack didn't even turn his head. He just threw out a crescent blade. Cheap trick. The man in green didn't stop. The blue light on his body surged. Wearing a blue armor, he crashed into the hidden weapon. Clang, clang, clang. The crescent blade that was knocked away kept spinning between the 2 walls. For a moment, stone fragments flew everywhere. It was almost blinding. At this time, the man in green had already arrived behind Jack and chopped down with his sword. Jack had no choice but to step to the side. His forward momentum was stopped. He was about to use the same trick and throw out the crystal bottle to escape. Tidal slash. Suddenly, the blue sword aura moved in a crisscross pattern. It was like a tidal wave, forcing Jack to keep dodging. The hidden weapon was crushed as soon as it was thrown. Jack couldn't help but groan inwardly. He was a little desperate. He was a thief. Of course, he had the ability. However, most of his skills were small tricks. His frontal attack wasn't strong. In such a narrow environment, wanting to force his way out of the man in green sword aura was undoubtedly a fool's dream. At this time, Jack missed Arthur very much. That guy's abilities as a thief were terrible, but he definitely had the ability to attack. Just as Jack was about to lose if he continued to defend for a long time, a loud shout suddenly came from above. Who is it? Bowing to thank the book friend, Archer_Eggy for the tip. Chapter 76. Who's there? This shout came from one of the 4 men on the wall. Originally, they were only responsible for sealing off the top of the alley. Now that Jack had broken through from below, they naturally had nothing to do. Thus, they were all watching the fight below. Unexpectedly, someone came up from behind them and quickly dealt with the 2 men on one side. If the man on the other side didn't feel the barbed wire in his hand loosen and quickly raise his head, he probably wouldn't have noticed this uninvited guest. When the barbed wire fell, the man in green below hurriedly raised his head. He saw a figure tumbling in the air. Suddenly, it split into 3 and transformed into 3 blood shadows. They flashed in front of him as if they had shrunk the ground into an inch. Then, 3 blood-red lights appeared. The man in green was shocked. This attack was too fast and too fierce. It was as if the space between them didn't exist. Between the eyebrows, throat, and heart. Which attack was the real one? The man in green was also a decisive person. He didn't wait to raise his sword. The blue light in his left hand instinctively crossed over his left chest. Pooh! The red dagger pierced through his flesh and blood appeared. Huh! Although he had been stabbed, the azure-robed man laughed loudly. He made the right bet. The dagger that stabbed between his eyebrows and throat were all illusions. The real dagger had already pierced through his palm and into his chest. However, he wasn't worried. He knew this wasn't enough to kill him. Bang! Before the man in green could counterattack, he felt a pain in his lower abdomen. Then he was kicked into the black smoke behind him. Go! The uninvited guest used the force of this kick to roll up again. Aya! 2 screams came from above. Where do you think you're going? The man in green, whose body was covered in blue light, roared angrily. He instantly rushed out of the black smoke. Unexpectedly, a metallic light covered his eyes. Damn it! The middle-aged man in green and the burly man who just came out of the black smoke were trapped in the barbed wire. They could only watch as Jack climbed over the wall and left. Plop! The two burly men who had their barbed wire taken away fell from the wall. They grimaced in pain. Phew! The man in green stood still for a moment and let out a long breath. Damn it! He couldn't help but feel depressed. Just when he was about to succeed, it was suddenly ruined by a guy who came out of nowhere. What was even more depressing was that, because the assassination had happened too quickly, he didn't even have time to see what the person who hurt him looked like. How am I going to explain this when I get back? On a small street a few blocks away from the alley, Jack caught up with his savior and said, "Brother, uncle, thank you for saving my life." "Your uncle?" The middle-aged man rolled his eyes. "Who are you calling your uncle?" Hey, Arthur." Jack opened his mouth and then patted Tang in on the shoulder in surprise. "Haha, I was wondering why you're still so good at fighting despite your old arms and legs. How can you make us young people feel?" This middle-aged man was Tang In, who had been following Jack all the way here. Originally, when he saw that Jack had shaken off his pursuers, he was about to show himself. However, he did not expect to find a group of people following him. Moreover, they had already set up an ambush, so he could only wait and be the Oriole. Tang In said angrily, "What's wrong with that group of people just now? How can a thief be ambushed by others? That's too embarrassing for your profession." "TSK, don't mention it." Jack slammed his palm gloomily. "It's the pirates from the Aston family." "The Aston family?" Tang In was shocked. He was involved in this matter, and even the account book was taken out by him. He didn't expect the victim's family to come to him so quickly. Jack said hatefully, "Isn't that so? They took the portrait of us in disguise and searched the entire city." Sigh. People are afraid of being famous, just like pigs are afraid of being fat. I'm a little famous in this profession, so they came to find me. Damn it, they've been chasing me for 3 days. Portrait? Tang In frowned. Yeah, now that I think about it, it must have been the gray-clothed man who reported it. Damn it, he's not particular, getting rid of the donkey when it's no longer needed. Don't let me know who he is, or I'll let him have a taste of Uncle Jack's methods. Then what are you going to do now? Jack blinked and showed a hint of fatigue. I want to sleep now. Damn it, I haven't slept for 3 days and 3 nights. You deserve it. You got your retribution for being a thief. Tang In was puzzled after gloating over Jack's misfortune. If you're sleepy, just find a hotel to sleep in. Sir, if we're talking about retribution, it seems like you, the assassin, are the one who really deserves it. Jack rolled his eyes and said, "Do you think I don't want to stay in a hotel? If I had your disguise skills, I would have gone in long ago. Why don't you teach me disguise skills?" Dream on. Tang In naturally rejected him mercilessly. He then said, "I didn't save you for nothing. I haven't asked you to thank me, and you're already reaching out to me." That's not interesting." Jack looked vigilant. "We've been through thick and thin together, so it's only right to help. Don't tell me you're still thinking about my diamond. Let me tell you, I've already used up all my gold coins." "Used up all your gold coins?" Tang In was shocked. "What did you do to be so wasteful?" "Please, I'm a thief who relies on tools. Do you think my half-moon blades, cracking devices, smoke crystal bottles, and so on don't cost money? I'm already in debt now, and I'm just waiting to sell my fighting spirit cultivation method." "Well, don't talk about those useless things. I want to ask you to steal something. Can you help me?" "Oh, there's business to do." Jack suddenly became spirited. "Well, since you and I are familiar with each other, I'll give you a 10% discount." Tang Un's mouth twitched. This place is not far from the place just now. The man in green is not dead yet. If someone wants to get to know him again, I'm willing to help. I'm not familiar with them, so let's not get to know each other again." Jack laughed dryly. "I just thought about it. It's too tacky to talk about money between brothers, and it hurts feelings. So this time I'm strongly willing to help you for free." "Hee hee, that's good. Well, tell me, what is it? Where is it? Master Jack can't do anything else, but taking something is easy. Jack's face was full of confidence, as if he was the only one who could do it. It's some information. It's in Bose's office at the police station. Oh, what are you doing? Jack's legs went soft, and he almost knelt on the ground. He quickly grabbed Tang Yin's arm. Big brother, I was wrong. I'll kneel to you. You should send me back to the place just now. Tang Yin rolled his eyes speechlessly. It's just stealing something. Do you have to go so far? That's Bose. The Bose whose hands are stained with the blood of assassins and thieves. Don't talk about stealing from him. I usually avoid him when I see him on the road. In comparison, I'd rather steal the seal from the city lord's residence. Not going. I won't go even if you beat me to death. If that's the case, then I can only use a disguise item as a reward to ask other thieves to help. TSK, that's a disguise item that can fool Bose's eyes. Jack's body froze when he heard that, and his eyes kept rolling. All right, I still have things to do. I'll take my leave first. Tang Yin cupped his hands and turned to leave. Of course, this turn was very slow. Oh, wait. Jack's expression kept changing, and then he gritted his teeth. Damn it, I'll do it. Are you sure? Don't force yourself. I'm sure. It's just bow, Bose. Jack had a generous expression. If I succeed, my life will be worth it. Useless. Chapter 77. Although he had encouraged Jack, a professional thief, to join the plan to steal information, it wasn't something that could be done in a short time. Tang Yin put on a simple disguise for Jack and lent him some parts for disguise before sending him to the hotel to sleep. Tang Yin took a taxi to a nearby street and walked home. He noticed that Lena was standing on the stairs and looking around. She rubbed her hands together and breathed into her mouth from time to time. Whenever someone passed by the corner of the street, it would attract her attention. Tang Yin touched his nose, feeling slightly touched. He walked out from the corner of the street. Lena hesitated when she saw Tang Yin, then quickly walked up to him. Arthur, that's not necessary. It hasn't been long, and you've already cast me, the landlord aside. Tang Yin chuckled. No, it's just that your face seems to have changed. I was a good person and gave away some of my disguises. It's so cold. Why are you standing outside? Tang Yin didn't want to talk about disguises, so he changed the topic. You don't think that I want to kill someone, do you? Lena lowered her head in embarrassment, obviously admitting to it. Tang Yin touched his forehead. Sister, killing someone isn't like buying groceries. How can you kill someone on the street? I'm just worried. Lena felt wronged. Huh, what's there to worry about? I'm very powerful. Moreover, you could be the landlord if I die. Tang Yin joked. I'll return the deed to you. Tang Yin looked at Lena's slightly red eyes and serious face. He couldn't help but touch his nose again. The most embarrassing thing when you're joking is when someone takes it seriously. I'm joking. I apologize. All right, let's go inside. The next day, the sky in Lion City was still gloomy and depressing. However, the commoners were very happy because the chaos seemed to have subsided. There were only a few fights in the city in the morning. At this moment, a luxurious carriage drove out of Robert Castle, accompanied by dozens of spirited squires. Gray, what's the situation? Bevan pinched the bridge of his nose and leaned comfortably on the soft velvet cushion. Young Master Bevan, apart from some sporadic fights in Southport, most of them have been brought under control. Gray, who was sitting on the side, said excitedly. Hearing this, Bevan's spirits were lifted. Good. After the Iron Blood Association is disbanded, I'd like to see how the Black family will fight for the docks. Because of the Black family's sudden attack, Bevan hadn't had a good rest these days. It wasn't that he was worried. Instead, it was that he had to constantly control his various powers and techniques to neutralize his opponent's attacks, which consumed too much of his energy. Young Master Bevan, the Black family is powerless to reverse the situation. The current struggle is just a struggle at death's door. Yes. Baywen nodded and picked up the ginseng tea. He paused for a moment before closing the teacup and said, We can't relax. These old foxes aren't easy to deal with. You only need to make one mistake. Later, you still have to give the order to continue to strengthen the attack. You have to attack until the other party has no chance to counterattack. Yes. Gray stood up. Bevan waved his hand and said with a smile, "Ha, Gray, don't worry. It won't be too late to talk about it later when we reach the city lord's mansion. We can't make any waves in such a short time. You've also worked hard during this period of time. Come, have a cup of tea." "Thank you, young master. I'm just running an errand to pass on a message." "It's not hard at all. Young Master Bevan, you've spent a lot of energy recently. You should hurry up and drink this ginseng tea." "Ha. Then let's drink together." Gray smiled and nodded. He bowed and took the teacup and sat down. Yes, what kind of waves could they make in such a short time? The two of them picked up their teacups, but before they could touch their lips, bang, the carriage suddenly shook. The beautiful patterns on the carriage wall instantly blossomed with light, forming a circle of light that spread from the inside to the outside. The window shattered, and an arrow-shaped shadow hit the circle of light. It paused for a moment, but still penetrated the circle of light and shot towards Bevan, who was sitting upright in the carriage. "Young master, be careful." Bevan tilted his head. The shadow passed by him, and with a bang, nailed into the carriage wall. At this time, Gray had already thrown himself in front of the broken window, using his body to block the view outside. Bevan, on the other hand, was very calm. He was focused on the object nailed into the carriage wall. It was a rather strange crossbow arrow. It was less than 3 inches long and had a dark body. The arrowhead had mysterious red symbols drawn on it. "Magic piercing arrow." Bevan narrowed his eyes and said coldly, "Nay." Several cries came from the cavalry outside. They were angry but not chaotic. They quickly formed a circular formation around the carriage. Then several cavalry rushed out in the direction of the crossbow arrow. At this time, Gray walked away from the window with lingering fear. Seeing the crossbow arrow, he suddenly cried out, "Magic piercing arrow!" Magic piercing arrow, as the name implied, was a crossbow arrow that could penetrate magic barriers. Of course, this was not absolute. The specific quality of the crossbow arrow and the strength of the magic barrier, etc. But in general, it was a powerful weapon that specialized in dealing with magicians. Bevan was the heir that the Robert family was currently focusing on cultivating. His safety was naturally very important. Therefore, the family had specially engraved a magic barrier array on his carriage. The assassin might have also known this, so he used the expensive magic-piercing arrow. But this magic-piercing arrow was not powerful enough. It paused for a moment when it penetrated the magic barrier, giving Bevan a chance to react. He narrowly dodged to the side. "It's the Black family." With a gloomy face, Gray's first thought was of the Black family that they were currently on bad terms with. Bevan said non-committally, "It's possible." After a while, the cavalry that had rushed out just now returned. Gray got out of the carriage for a moment, then returned to the carriage and said, "We didn't catch him. The assassin left after shooting. It should be just a test." Bevan was not surprised by this result. He nodded and said, "Let's continue forward." After a pause, the carriage continued forward. But at this time, the cavalry's defense was clearly much more concentrated. At least 4 cavalrymen controlled their horses and walked beside the carriage window. Before they could take a few steps forward, a rapid clatter came from the front. A cavalryman with a golden lion head on his armor was rushing towards them. 2 cavalrymen quickly went to support him. After a while, one of them came back and handed a scroll to Gray. Gray opened it and his face changed. "Young Master Bevan, Viscount Thomas family has declared war on the Delco family." "Thomas family?" Bevan was surprised. "Did the aristocratic alliance attack them?" "No, young master." "Did they say the reason?" "No, it just happened," Yi Zichen said. Clatter. At this time, another cavalryman rushed over and handed over a scroll. "Ambrose family has declared war on the aristocratic alliance." "Walter family has declared war on the aristocratic alliance." The clatter of horse hooves continued. After a while, more than 10 families had declared war on the aristocratic alliance, including the Robert family. At this time, Bevan's face was no longer calm. What happened? How was this possible? Was it done by the Black family? No, it was impossible. Aristocratic families were all fence-sitters. It was impossible for them to not see the situation back then and stand on the side that was destined to lose. Besides, the black family could not even protect themselves. How could they attract the other nobles with the benefits of the docks? Young Master Bevan, I know the reason. Gray ran over with sweat all over his forehead. Speak. Not long ago, the Delco family used the power of the aristocratic alliance to wipe out the Thomas family's gang and took over Pier 55. Pier 55? Bevan was stunned for a while and subconsciously asked a stupid question. Pier 55 among the 76 previous piers. Yes. Bang. The teacup that had just been replaced was once again crushed by the pale-faced Bevan. This pig, bowing to thank his book friends Big Brother Bull, Chestnut Jam, and JHD 121 for their tips. Chapter 78. There was an unwritten rule in the circle of nobles. Vested interests could not be violated. For example, before the 24 new docks were built in Lion City's Southport, there were already 76 docks. These 76 docks that had already been allocated were vested interests. Once these interests were infringed upon, it would be a battle to the death. Bevan's painstakingly managed aristocratic alliance grew stronger day by day. However, when he forcefully scattered the Flame Dragon Union and caused the Matthews family to give up on the idea of building a new dock, he had never thought of making a move on these docks. Bevan was very clear that although they were constantly fighting and killing, it was all within the framework of rules. Just as Count Robert said, Lion City could not be in chaos. However, the Delk family had violated this interest. He made a move on the Thomas family and took over their Dock 55. Could it be that Viscount Delk did not know about this rule? Of course not. He had only been blinded by his interests and resentment. The Thomas family and the Delk family had always been at odds. The two Viscounts would quarrel whenever they met. However, Viscount Thomas would always have the upper hand. This was because in the end, he would always ridicule the Delk family for being an inferior noble family without a peer. As time passed, Viscount Delk's resentment grew. Don't you have docks? Aren't you arrogant? Then I'll take yours. When the news of the docks being taken spread, it immediately caused a huge uproar. Although they had borrowed the power of the aristocratic alliance, this was really just the Delk family venting their anger. However, the other nobles clearly did not think so. They only thought that the aristocratic alliance was preparing to make a move on all the docks. How could they tolerate this? Thus, in a short period of time, more than 10 families quickly declared war on the aristocratic alliance. When Bevan changed his route and arrived at the Delk family's manor, almost all the nobles with docks had declared war. In the front hall of the Delk family, the 5 Viscounts were all present. Viscount Delk sat on the chair with a panicked expression. He was truly afraid. He did not expect such an intense reaction. As for the other Viscounts, some were sitting with ashen faces while others were walking around in panic. Viscount Delk, you sigh. Sigh. These sighs were like heavy hammers that struck Viscount Delk's heart. At this moment, Bevan walked into the front hall with a calm expression. Such a long time was enough for him to adjust his mood. Viscount Dirk took a few steps forward and bowed deeply. Sir Bevan, I sigh. Bevan's mouth twitched, but he still helped Viscount Dirk up. Lord Viscount, don't blame yourself too much. Since this has happened, we should think of a way to deal with it. I'll listen to Sir Bevan's orders. Viscount Dirk immediately declared. Okay, first of all, you have to quickly contact the Thomas family and return Pier 55. A Viscount should be humble. Yes, I'll go now. There's no hurry. This is far from enough to resolve our current crisis. Next, you have to use a new pier in exchange for Viscount Thomas's statement. Just say that you were instigated by the Black family and accidentally injured the other party. This is actually just a misunderstanding. Viscount Dirk hesitated. Originally, according to the previous cooperation agreement, if the aristocratic alliance was successful, these Viscount families would be given 2 or 3 docks. Now that he had to give up one, he couldn't help but feel heartache. Bevan's eyes flashed as he said in a warm voice, Sir Viscount doesn't need to worry. This dock will be provided by the Robert family. How could I accept this? I was the one who made the mistake, so this dock should be provided by me. Viscount Dirk said slowly. Hee, sir, no need to be so polite. Now that time is tight, you should hurry and leave. Okay, then I'll go now. Viscount Dirk cupped his hands and quickly left. Bevan looked at Viscount Dirk's back and narrowed his eyes. This was truly a pig-like teammate. Bevan calmed himself down and cupped his hands towards the surroundings. Lord Viscounts, the situation is urgent. Please continue to follow our previous arrangements and increase the intensity of the attack. Okay, Sir Bevan, don't worry. We'll personally go and supervise. The Viscounts also cupped their hands and hurriedly left. Phew! After arranging all the matters, Bevan let out a long breath and turned around to leave the Dirk Manor and get on the carriage. Young Master Bevan, the Golden Lion Gang is already fully focused on the Iron Blood Association's base. They should be able to completely destroy it in an hour. Gray quickly said, An hour? Bevan didn't have any joy on his face. This is the fastest speed? Yes. Young Master Bevan, do you think that the Blake family still has a backup plan? Never overestimate the intelligence of your companions and never underestimate the ability of your opponents. Bevan suddenly sighed and then shook his head. Although he quickly responded, there are still many loopholes that can be exploited. If I were Earl Blake, this kind of opportunity. Sigh, it's all because of that stupid Viscount Dirk. Gray couldn't help but feel angry when he saw that the good situation had taken a turn for the worse. Stupid? Bevan smiled bitterly. Stupid isn't scary. What's scary is greedy stupidity. That guy was still worried about his peer just now. Gray opened his mouth in surprise. Could it be that the peer? Time is tight. I don't have time to talk nonsense with him. I'll pay for the peer. That pig. Don't insult a pig. Bevan waved his hand, and then his face darkened. Ridiculous. He still wants the peer. I've never been stingy with sharing benefits with my partners, but I won't give anything to this kind of guy who drags me down and ruins my plans. In the attic, Tang In was munching on a rice ball without any taste. Because Lena had gone to Linha Street early in the morning to handle the demolition procedures and hadn't returned yet, he could only eat the leftovers. What, I made it. What a joke. I shouldn't waste those materials. Tang had already been spoiled by Lena. How could he eat the junk food he made? Walala? Tang and looked at the gloomy sky in surprise. Setting up a wooden ladder, Tang and took the rice ball and climbed up the wall. Bess, with his hair disheveled and a strong artistic temperament, was holding a brush and concentrating on drawing something. Hi. The bored Tang and took the initiative to greet him. Bess didn't respond. It was as if he was completely immersed in the world of art. Yo, ignoring me. You were so enthusiastic last time. Tang and persevered. Good afternoon. Have you eaten? I've eaten. Bess frowned and turned his head helplessly. Ha, I've eaten too. Bess exhaled. What's the matter? Nothing much. Well, the weather is bad today. Why are you drying your painting? Tang began to find a topic. Yes. TSK, TSK. Tang and continued. You don't like to talk? I'm busy, Bess said concisely. You're quite like an assassin. Tang and came to a shocking conclusion. Bess raised his head and put down the brush. Mutes don't like to talk, but not all mutes are assassins. That makes sense. Tangin's ears moved slightly. He turned his head and saw Lena opening the back door and preparing to tie the horse's reins to a wooden stake. Haha, I'll leave first. I'll talk to you next time. Bess rolled his eyes and simply turned his head away, ignoring him. Lena saw Tang and climbing up the wall and asked in surprise, Mr. Arthur? It's nothing. I'm just connecting with the neighbors. You're finally back. Well, you must be hungry. Lena turned her head and smiled. Tang burped and speechlessly raised a rice ball in his hand. I'm full. Have you settled the matter? No. Lena frowned and said angrily, Some strangers came and only gave us 1 gold coin to move away. Everyone disagreed, and they even wanted to use force. Tang was stunned for a moment, and then said angrily, Forceful demolition? What happened next? A noble lady happened to pass by. With her there, Those people didn't dare to do anything and left while cursing. Tanga was surprised. A noble lady? Yes. Lena nodded and then tilted her head. That noble lady has a good temperament and a good person. She said she would go again tomorrow and that she would keep an eye on this matter. By the way, her name is Josiah. Josiah. Chapter 79. In the afternoon, two ordinary-looking middle-aged men were chatting casually on the street outside the police station. No one would pay attention to them because it was a very normal scene. Maybe they had arranged beforehand, or maybe they met on the street. Who knew, of course, if you heard their conversation, you wouldn't think that way. So, are you confident about going in? It's not hard to go in, we just have to get caught. Ahem, there are no blind spots around here. It's all within sight. We can only try at night. Speaking of which, are we really going to do this? Duh, are you thinking of backing out because you're scared? Oh, why would I be? I've never been scared. It's just information. All right, what kind of information do you need to steal from the police station? I want all the information about Ghostface that Bose has. Huh, Ghostface? What do you want? I want to investigate Ghostface. I suddenly feel like backing out. Sorry, it's too late. Why do you have to drag me into this if you want to die? You said it yourself. We're good brothers. It's only right for us to risk our lives for each other. Stealing from Bose, investigating Ghostface. Why do I feel like you're stabbing me in the back? All right, stop talking nonsense. Let's take a look. We'll do it tonight. The two of them stopped talking and prepared to walk around the police station again. Needless to say, these two were Tang In and Jack, who were here to check out the place. Tang In felt that something was not right in Lion City, so he wanted to take advantage of today's rare peace. Hence, he dragged Jack, who had been sleeping in the hotel for a day and a night. However, before the two of them walked out of the police station's main entrance, suddenly, thud, 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 thud. The police station's main entrance opened suddenly. The police cavalry poured out like carps crossing the river. They instantly filled half of the street. Then, they spread out and ran to various places in the city. Tang In and Jack looked at each other. What the F***CK is this called peace? Something's not right. Don't tell me they're fighting again. Winter 554 of the brand calendar, a certain day, Lion City, the little pearl of the South, fell into complete chaos. Earl Blake issued a notice to all the nobles, complaining about the bad habits of the Royal Alliance, which included encroaching on the vested interests of the nobles and so on. He called for everyone to form an alliance to resist. This announcement caused a strong reaction in Lion City. Immediately, a few powerful Viscount families joined the alliance. Just as the alliance was growing stronger, the Thomas family hurriedly came out to clarify that the aristocrat alliance had attacked them because of the instigation of the Blake family. Now that the dock had been returned, it was just a misunderstanding. At this time, the Black family issued another announcement, saying that this was just a delaying tactic by the aristocratic alliance. In fact, the Hermann family's pier had already been attacked. Then, Viscount Hermann appeared and confirmed the news with a pained expression. He also scolded the aristocratic alliance. The aristocrat alliance reacted quickly. They immediately issued a notice, accusing the Black family and the Hermann family of colluding to create rumors. All kinds of news, both true and false, spread all over the place. The surrounding nobles were completely stunned. Some joined the battle, some watched, some took the opportunity to take revenge, some were directly implicated. In this afternoon, at least 1/3 of the nobles in Lion City were involved. As time passed, this percentage continued to increase. At this time, the nobles had already shed all pretense of cordiality. Other than sending out their own gangs, the nobles' private guards also joined the battle. The entire Lion City fell into chaos. Although the guards were exhausted from running around and stopping one fight after another, more fights broke out all over the city. The situation was close to getting out of control. At this time, in the Robert family castle, Bevan's study room, Gray hurriedly pushed open the door and entered. Bevan, who was standing by the window, suddenly turned his head. Looking at Bevan's eagle-like eyes, Gray lowered his head. Young Master Bevan, the Iron Blood Association didn't didn't manage to take it down. A few of the mid-tier gangs from the Alliance have rushed over. Bevan's eyes gradually dimmed, showing signs of fatigue. We failed at the last step. Gray saw Bevan's rare dejection and his heart ached. Young Master Bevan. Bevan waved his hand and straightened his back. The current situation is expected. Earl Blake isn't an idiot. And give me a few suggestions. The key now is the Blake family leading the charge. We could try to gather all our forces and attack the Iron Blood Association once again. As long as we succeed, those fence-sitters will definitely hesitate and change sides. Bevan immediately shook his head. No, the risk is too big. We've already lost our best chance. We're not gamblers. We need to stabilize our footing and see the situation clearly. Gray's eyes flashed with a dangerous light. The second is to kill them. Send a family's death warriors or hire an assassin to assassinate the Iron Blood Association's president and Earl Blake. As long as these two people die, we can achieve the same result. The success rate is too low, but we can try. If Ghostface makes a move, our chances will be higher. It's a pity we can't contact him. What else? And Gray seemed to hesitate. Bevan looked at him doubtfully and said, "What do you want to say?" Gray gritted his teeth. The reason we haven't taken down the Iron Blood Association is that their strength is increasing, and our strength is not strong enough. If the family releases the restrictions on you and allows you to control all the power of the Golden Line Gang, we can definitely take down the Iron Blood Association. What's the point of saying all this? Bevan frowned. With the opposition of the elders and the family, how can I control all the power of the Golden Lion Gang? The elders in the family are against it because of the eldest son succession system, and you're the second son. Yes, because I'm the second son. Bevan thought of something and suddenly raised his head, staring at Gray. Gray and Bevan looked at each other for a moment. Then Gray slowly said, "If the eldest son dies, then the second son will be the first to inherit the family's power." Impudent. After a moment of silence, Bevan roared and punched Gray's cheek. Bang! Blood sprayed out, and Gray crashed into the wall and fell. Gray silently wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and knelt on the ground without saying a word. You. Bevan's face was ashen, and he pointed a trembling finger at Gray. "Get out," Gray calmly said. "Young master, this is the fastest and easiest way. Get out." The roar reverberated in the study. The beams of the room shook, and the sound lingered in the air. Gray silently got up, bowed, and left the study, gently closing the door. Huff, 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 huff. As soon as the door closed, Bevan couldn't stop gasping for breath. He swallowed his saliva and reached out to unbutton his shirt. He had never felt that this button was so tight. He tried a few times, but to no avail. Roar! Bevan roared again, grabbing the front of his shirt with both hands. The shirt was torn open, and his strong body was exposed to the cold air. Taking a few steps back, Bevan slumped into a chair. Was Gray wrong? If it was only about this matter, he wasn't wrong. Very right. Bevan was very clear about this. After understanding Gray's meaning, although Bevan didn't want to admit it at that moment, he was a little tempted. What followed was endless disgust. When he punched Gray, it was more like he was trying to hide something. This is the fastest and simplest way. Gray's words echoed in Bevan's ears like a magic spell. Bending over, covering his face. Was he really going to kill his brother? P.S. 2 things. 1. Raccoon Cat cupped his paws and thanked Shuyu for death of the demon god, and JHD 121 for his tip. 2. Recommended friend book, Urban. Book ID equals 2558843. Book name equals Dream of the 7th and 8th. Chapter 80. The first rays of the morning sun peeked out from the horizon, and the morning fog gradually dispersed in the cool breeze. Lion City was very quiet at this moment. The people walking through the thin fog subconsciously lightened their footsteps, as if they were afraid of waking something up. Most of the people walking quickly on the streets were civilians carrying food baskets. Even if they met someone they knew, They would just nod and exchange a complicated look before hurrying back home. Ta-ta! On the main road, a noble carriage with a Chinese redbud flower emblem was moving at a constant speed towards the Southport. Soon, the carriage stopped at a place called Lena Street. 2 women and a man alighted from the carriage. From their attire, we could tell that the 3 of them were nobles. The one in front was the familiar Josiah. Josiah, this is the place you rushed to this morning? The noble young man looked at the filthy surroundings and frowned. Yes, Josiah, who was gentle with a hint of heroic spirit, replied casually. But this is the slums. What are we doing here? Another woman wearing a long dress said unhappily. Because it had been raining for the past few days, and it had been gloomy these days, the potholes on the street had accumulated a lot of water. This kind of environment was undoubtedly hated by the well-dressed woman because it would ruin her beloved dress. Josiah said helplessly, I didn't ask you to come. You wanted to follow me. Josiah exclaimed as if he saw something. He suddenly walked forward quickly. The 2 nobles looked at each other helplessly and followed him. The man was better off. The woman could only lift her dress carefully and walk step by step until she found a place. It felt like she was sweeping a mine. At this moment, a half-collapsed house appeared in front of them. A group of commoners wearing coarse clothes gathered together, and groans could be heard from time to time. Give me a bandage. Don't you have one? Then give me a piece of white cloth first. Also, give me a basin of clean water. Here, this is money. Little John, can you help me buy some medicine and bandages from the treatment center? A slightly anxious female voice came from the crowd. She seemed to be a doctor. What happened? Joshua asked as he moved closer to her. Miss Josiah? The woman was about to get up to wash the towel when she raised her head and saw Josiah. You are Lena? Magicians generally had good memories. Josiah quickly remembered the woman he had met yesterday. Yes. What's wrong here? Josiah asked in surprise. Josiah's face turned red. If they dare, I'll go find them now. It's useless, Aunt Susan said dejectedly. They said it was the decision of the city government. Nonsense, Josiah said angrily. I went back last night to check. The city government clearly stipulated that the compensation for the demolition fee is based on the area. So what? We can't beat them. That's right. If they attack again, we won't be able to keep our lives. Sigh, the crowd around them shook their heads in frustration. Josiah was anxious and angry. We want to complain. Why are you pulling me? The noble man and woman pulled Joshua to the side and whispered to each other. Josiah, you're not really going to help these poor people, are you? Why not? Josiah quickly asked. This kind of thing is very troublesome. You know the chaos caused by the construction of the wharf recently. Josiah said angrily. So what? They can fight for the wharf, but they can't not even pay the demolition fee for these civilians. If you drive them away like this, where do you want them to live? That's right, but they're just poor people. If you help them like this, Josiah frowned and stared at the 2 people in front of him. Is this what you want to say? Thank you for your kindness. Josiah pursed his lips and said firmly, They're right about this. Since they're right, I'll definitely help. After saying this, Josiah turned and left, standing in the middle of the crowd. The young girl's spirit eyes looked at the civilians, and the restless crowd quieted down. She bowed and said, Hello, everyone. I'm Josiah. The Brand Kingdom's laws state that civilians should have the right to be free from hunger, cold, and persecution. When this right is violated, the nobles have the obligation to help them. I come from a noble family, and I'm willing to help you. The surrounding civilians completely quieted down and looked at the young girl, who was slightly nervous because it was the first time she spoke in front of so many people. I didn't experience what you just experienced, but I understand how you feel now. Your rights have been violated. If you can't complain about this violation, then it will never be resolved. We're right, so we have to shout it out and tell those who want to violate us. I'm going to the mayor's office to complain. I don't know if I can succeed this time, but I want to try. I'm Chloe Josiah, a beginner water mage. Is there anyone who wants to try with me? Looking at Josiah's expectant eyes, the crowd lowered their heads in silence. Josiah's eyes dimmed, and he bit his lips. I'm willing to go. A girl stood up and walked to Josiah's side. I'm Lena. I used to be a nightingale, and now, I'm working on washing machines. Well, I'm half an alchemist. I'm willing to go. I'm willing to go. A young child's voice sounded. I'm John Jr. If Sister Lena goes, I'll go. In the middle of the crowd stood 2 women and a child. Damn, I'm willing to go. F***CK your mother. Count me in. As if a barrel of gunpowder that had been sealed for a long time was ignited, the crowd boiled. At first glance, there were faces full of excitement, fear, anger, and other complicated expressions. An indescribable atmosphere filled the air, and the 2 nobles on the outside couldn't help but take a few steps back. This group of people, were they crazy? After a while, the crowd carrying a few stretchers gathered. Under the lead of the 2 women and a child, they started to walk towards the mayor's residence in the middle of the city. We want the demolition fee. We want appeal. Under the shocked gazes of the people on both sides of the street, the miscellaneous slogans became louder and louder. It was as if they were declaring that they had nothing, only shouting. Lion City seemed to have been awakened by the continuous shouting. The chaos continued, and the endless fighting on the streets resumed. When this group of people who were shouting passed by, both sides of the chaotic battle couldn't help but stop. At first, they were surprised and found it funny. However, when these people fearlessly walked over, both sides couldn't help but make way for them. It was unknown who took the lead. We want the demolition fee. We want the demolition fee. The slogans gradually became unified, and the momentum became louder and louder. It was as if they wanted to disperse the early morning mist, and also as if they wanted to completely awaken the city. Chidian website welcomes readers to read. The latest, fastest, and most popular serial works are all at Chidian Originals. Chapter 81. We call this Operation Shout. Miss Josiah is amazing. She led us out of Lena Street step by step while shouting the slogan. Then we passed through the streets and the city. Those who were fighting on the road didn't dare to stop us. Finally, we arrived at the city lord's mansion. In the attic, Lena gestured and told them what had happened this morning. TSK, that's amazing. Tang, inside. Then, what did the city lord mansion say? Wasn't this a demonstration? This Josiah is really a strange, noble girl. No one in the city lord's mansion paid attention to us. Lena was a little depressed, but then she said, later, we went to the government office, the city construction office, the guard office, and so on. Although no one paid attention to us, a few nobles inquired about us. Miss Josiah said that we will continue to shout at noon tomorrow. As long as we can continue to attract attention, our matter will definitely be solved. I hope so. Josiah, it seems that you admire her very much. No, I admire her very much. Oh, why? What's there to admire about the girl who was fooled by me? Because she is really amazing. Lena looked like a love-struck fool. Okay. Tang, and shook his head and said, I don't want to talk to you anymore. I have a new idea. I have a feeling that I will definitely be able to get the washing machine out tomorrow. Well, tonight you wash the dishes. Seeing that Tang didn't care about Josiah, Lena decisively got angry. Don't be like this. Is this how you treat your landlord? Mr. Arthur, you seem to have forgotten that the deed is now with me. Lena smiled slyly and opened the back door to the alchemy room. Tang touched his nose and smiled bitterly as he cleaned up the dishes. Don't offend women. At night, Bevan's study room was filled with smoke. Bevan's blonde hair was disheveled. He was holding a long-necked wine bottle in his left hand and a thick cigarette in his right hand. He took a deep breath. Cough, cough. Bewan's body kept trembling, and some of the wine spilled out. It was obvious that he had never tried this before. I really don't understand. What's so good about this thing? But the dizziness feels pretty good. Knock, knock. The door was pushed open, and Gray walked in with a frown. Bevan handed the bottle over. Do you want a drink? Cough, cough. Looking at your expression, it seems like you have some bad news to tell me. Tell me, another family has joined Blake's side? Or did that idiot Dirk stir up trouble again? No, it's the Black family that issued another notice. This time, it's a citywide notice. Oh, what's wrong? What kind of rumor did that old man make up? Just like what happened with the Herman family? Gray shook his head. No, the Golden Lion gang didn't pay when they demolished the street, and they even injured people. Yes, it's real this time. Really? Bevan opened his mouth in shock. Didn't the 5 families already give the demolition funds to the Golden Lion gang? I asked the leader of the Golden Lion gang. Gray's expression turned ugly. This matter was handled by one of the leaders of the gang. He kept more than half of the funds and wanted to give each family a gold coin to force the commoners to leave. Bevan was silent. Suddenly, he laughed. Ha ha! He laughed so hard that he was convulsing. He couldn't help but wipe his eyes, as if tears were coming out his eyes. I'm puzzled. Ha ha, why? Why are there so many idiots in this world? Ha ha, and why are all these idiots on my side? Are they playing with me? Pa! The wine bottle broke. Bevan's face suddenly turned ashen. Make him spit out the funds, and then sink him to the bottom of Lano River. Yes, but the situation isn't so simple now. Can't we just distribute the funds according to the rules? Bevan didn't understand. Those commoners did some kind of shouting action. They surrounded Lion City and shouted for an entire day. The news has already spread. These unruly commoners. Bevan clenched his fists. What do they want to do? Do they want to become the Gray Coat Army? Fine, if that's the case, they won't get a single coin. The Gray Coat Army was an organization that roamed the North. It was mostly made up of poor commoners. They criticized the current aristocratic system and advocated that the commoner status should be raised and they should participate in politics. Of course, most of the aristocrats like Bevan thought that this was a ridiculous thing. Their background, life, education, what they saw, what they heard, all told them that commoners were born to be ruled by aristocrats. Yes, and Gray hesitated. I've already taken care of that matter. Bevan, who was abnormally excited, suddenly quieted down and buried his face in the shadows. After a while, a hoarse voice said, "In emission conditions, does it say to die without pain?" Yes. Okay, you can leave. Gray bowed and left the study. Bevan walked slowly to the open window. The cold wind hit him, and the chill was pressing. Although there was light, Robert Castle still looked a bit gloomy at night. Oh, that was the Patriarch's office, the place he had dreamed of since childhood. When his brother knew about it, he took him to sneak in a play. He knocked over the ink bottle on the table and was caught. His brother said that it was his idea. As a result, his brother was hit 30 times, while he only got hit 5 times. His brother had been protecting him since he was a child. He always let him have his way. Yes, there was also a competition. The place on the right without light was his brother's study. It was deserted. The location wasn't good. It was blocked by a wall, and there was almost no sunlight all year round. It was a bit damp. It should have been his, but he didn't expect his adult brother to move in first. He said that he liked the quietness there. He thought it was a good place, so he fought for his brother to let him have it. His brother didn't let him, so he was angry for a long time. When did he start to dislike his brother? It was probably after he became sensible. At that time, his brother always quarreled with his father. Over time, he gained his father's attention and began to come into contact with the family's affairs. Later, he entered the political arena. Gradually, he came to know the glory of the family. In comparison, his brother's paintings seemed so shallow. Later, those old guys in the family always talked about his brother. They said that the eldest son's inheritance system was the root of the family's internal strife. He started to hate his brother more and more. Brother, why are you so stubborn? In this kind of environment, the family's prosperity is the most important thing. Inhale, exhale, I'm not wrong. I will definitely make the Robert family develop and become the top aristocrat in Lion City and even the Brand Kingdom. Brother, I'm sorry. Chapter 82. Lion City finally cleared up, but this late sunshine couldn't remove the shadows in people's hearts. Dong dong. Mr. Arthur, I'm Alan. I'm here to deliver your newspaper. biting on a piece of bread. Tang In opened the door. Alan, good morning. Good morning, Mr. Arthur. Here, today's newspaper. Alan handed over a stack of papers and said, sigh. On the way here, there was a fight at the pier again. Lion City isn't peaceful anymore. I have a friend who does odd jobs at the cemetery. He said that people have to line up to be buried there. TSK, TSK. Thank you. Huh, you're welcome. I'll leave first. Tangen looked at Alan and suddenly had an idea. Wait, don't be in a hurry to leave. Mr. Arthur, is there anything else? Alan asked in surprise. Come in. Maybe I have a business deal with you. Business? Work with me? Alan entered the loft with doubts. Not long after Tangen's loft door closed, more than 10 armed cavalrymen arrived and looked around vigilantly. Then, a carriage that obviously belonged to a noble stopped in front of the door next door. It was a pure northern horse with a golden lion head emblem. It was the carriage of the Robert family. The door opened, and Bevan, with a head full of dazzling golden hair, walked down. Then, he let a girl out of the carriage. Second brother, why did you suddenly bring me to Big Brother's place today? The girl got down from the carriage and pressed down on the brim of her hat. Bevan smiled gently. I haven't seen Big Brother for a long time. I miss him. Why, Betsy, don't you want to come? No, of course I want to come. Betsy stuck out her tongue and pouted. It's just that the things Big Brother draws are too scary. Every time I come here, I don't dare to sleep at night. Ha! Bevan shook his head and smiled. You just don't have to look. Then, Bevan went up and knocked on the wooden door twice. Soon, the door was opened. Bevan, why are you here? Bess, who was wearing a robe stained with oil, asked in surprise. Bevan stepped forward and hugged Bess. I was passing by today and thought of Big Brother, so I came to take a look. Ha, good. Betsy is here too. Betsy stepped forward and bowed. Big Brother. Good, good. Come in, come in. Bess stepped aside with a smile on his face. Clang, 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 huh? Betsy looked around and asked in confusion. What's that sound? How strange. Ha ha, don't worry about it. Bess said with a smile. It's my neighbor's alchemy item. That thing is interesting. Oh, in the backyard of the attic, Alan widened his eyes as he stared at the constantly spinning thing in front of him. What is this? Lena said proudly. Washing machine. Washing machine? Alan's brain worked quickly. This can wash clothes automatically? You'll know when you see it. Lena was not sure since it was her first time trying it out. Oh. Alan kept looking at it, and then pointed to the small square box next to him. Mr. Arthur, what's wrong with you? Why do you look a little nervous? Nothing. Tang shrugged and smiled, but his eyes were still staring at the constantly spinning washing machine. Damn, how can I not be nervous? 2 lives are in my hands. The dagger slid to the cuff of his sleeve, waiting for an emergency to happen. Fortunately, Lena seemed to have found the key this time. When the washing machine was manually stopped, nothing happened. After it completely stopped spinning, the 3 of them rushed to the side of the wooden barrel. At this time, the originally clear water had become muddy, and a white dress was floating on the water. This was what Lena wore yesterday. After treating the poor people on Lena Street and marching for an entire day, the white dress had already turned gray. Lena, you do it. Tangen looked up and said, okay. Lena bit her lips, reached in, picked it up, and opened it. Under the sunlight, the wet but clean white dress appeared in front of the 3 of them. Yeah, wow, F*CK. Lena, Alan, and Tang each expressed their first impressions. I did it. Lena jumped up excitedly and hugged Tang in. Ha, I did it. It seemed that Lena's thoughts were not as complicated as Tangen's. It was just a reaction from excitement, and she probably did not know what she did just now. Okay, I know you did it. Don't learn how to repeat yourself. Tang said helplessly. What was more depressing than being forcefully kissed? That was being unconsciously forcefully kissed. Repeat myself? What is this? How do I do it? Lena, who had calmed down, seemed to be very motivated. Tang touched his forehead and quickly changed the topic. Alan, how is it? Is there a business for this thing? With a lot of business. Alan excitedly pointed at the washing machine and said, "This thing, the washing machine will definitely spread throughout the brand kingdom in a very short time. Oh no, it will definitely spread throughout the entire Shiza mainland. This is an epic-making product." Although the washing machine was expected to have a good future, Tang In and Lena were still shocked. Tang In had seen a lot of washing machines in his previous life, so he did not feel that this obviously backward semi-automatic washing machine was anything special. Lena, on the other hand, was shocked by the words epic making. This was a praise that only a few master alchemist products could enjoy. It's good that there's a business. Tang In quickly calmed down. "Alan, I'll let you sell this thing. How about it?" Alan opened his mouth wide and pointed at himself with trembling fingers. Aye, I'll sell it." Tang In rolled his eyes. "Nonsense. Why else would I ask you?" Mr. Arthur. Alan was so excited that he was speechless. However, after he calmed down, he lowered his head dejectedly. "Mr. Arthur, I'm afraid I can't promise you." "Huh? Why?" "I don't have money. I don't have connections. I don't have sales channels. I don't have anything. This washing machine can only be promoted in the hands of a large business family and generate profits in the fastest and best way. If you don't have connections, then find connections. If you don't have channels, then create channels. If you don't have money, how much money do you have?" 8 gold for silver and 50 copper. That's enough. I'll sponsor you with another 500 gold. Tang In patted Alan's shoulder. "Do you still remember? I said before that you'll definitely become an outstanding businessman." Alan gradually raised his thin and weak chest, his eyes emitting a strange brilliance. "Mr. Arthur, I promise you, I won't let you down." "Good," Tang In praised. Then he said, "Since it's a cooperation, then we have to set the rules. I'll invest, Lena will invent, and you'll sell. We'll split the profits 4-3. Mr. Arthur, Tang In waved his hand and interrupted Lena and Alan's words. "Okay, I'll make the decision on this matter. It's settled." Alan was speechless. 30%. Of course, he knew what 30% meant. If the washing machine was really sold in the whole Shiza continent, this 30% would make him the richest person in the world. Lena stood to the side without saying a word. She was now completely dumbfounded. Just now, when Tang In was being kissed and thinking about retribution, Betsy, who was once kissed by him, was standing by the attic window and looking over here. Because Bess's painting was too scary, Betsy went up to the second floor after entering the house, leaving her elder brother and second brother to talk on the first floor full of paintings. "Hey, why does that dress look a bit familiar?" Betsy, who looked away, saw the light, pleated, fluffy dress floating in the backyard of the attic. "Isn't that Josiah's dress? Why is it here?" Today was a rare day of good weather. Lena naturally hung out the clothes that were wet by the rain last time. Among them was the fluffy dress that Tang In stole from Josiah and then forgot in the carriage. At this time, Betsy discovered another thing. Isn't that the abominable Tang?" Betsy gritted her teeth. "Well, I finally caught you, you abominable guy. Watch me tell Josiah and expose your true face. Oh, by the way, the one who recommended the book last time, the newbie raccoon, forgot to add the link. This time I'll repost it. For those who like science fiction, please click Frowny Facebook ID equals 258-8670. Book name equals The Dark Magic Swordsman of the Apocalypse. Chidian website welcomes readers to read the latest, fastest, and hottest serialized works on Chidian's original works. Chapter 83. Although the washing machine had been initially built, it was definitely unrealistic to sell it now. Not to mention that Alan had yet to figure out how to sell it. There were also problems with the washing machine itself. Although this washing machine was rated as an epic-making product, it was mainly because of the creativity. The structure and materials inside were actually very simple, and it was not difficult to imitate. Moreover, the appearance of the washing machine in front of him was really ugly, and post-production packaging was necessary. Therefore, Tang took out 500 gold notes and sent Alan away first, letting him deal with the production and sales issues. Lena was thinking about how to improve it, at least not let it always make clanking sounds. At night, Tang held a bowl of rice and said, "Lena, have you thought about giving the washing machine a name?" Lena was stunned and then asked doubtfully, "A name? Is the washing machine bad? It's too monotonous, and we have to have a sense of brand awareness. How about Lena Washing Machine? Well, it can also be more domineering, God of Light Washing Machine, huh? Lena Washing Machine doesn't sound good. Mr. Arthur, you can't do that. We have to respect God." Tang Yin smiled rather disapprovingly. "Is there no more ordinary name?" Lena scratched her head. "Ordinary? Well, then let's call it Chinese Pastoral Cat, Chinese Pastoral Dog, something like that." Chinese Pastoral Cat? What's that? It's a raccoon cat. Oh, then let's call it Raccoon Cat Washing Machine. Hey, Mr. Arthur, there's a grain of rice next to your mouth. Then it's settled. After saying that, Tang casually stretched out his tongue and swallowed the grain of rice. At this time, Lena suddenly lowered her head and blushed, apparently thinking of something. Huh? Tang suddenly frowned and waved his hand to extinguish the oil lamp on the table. The room was suddenly plunged into darkness. Then, Lena was directly pushed down by Tang under the table. Lena subconsciously wanted to exclaim, but she was suppressed by Tang finger. Shua! Looking at Tang who was so close to her, Lena's body stiffened and her heart beat like a drum. What was Mr. Arthur trying to do? Could it be? But this is a restaurant. I haven't finished my dinner yet. All kinds of strange thoughts flashed through Lena's mind like a kaleidoscope. Sure, there's someone in the backyard. I'll go out and take a look. You stay here and don't move. Oh, what's wrong with you? The two of them were too close to each other, so even though it was dark, Tang still noticed something strange about Lena. Oh yeah, be careful. Lena buried her head in her hair, her voice as soft as a mosquito's. Huh? Tang looked at Lena strangely and quietly went up the stairs to the second floor. Lena pushed her hair aside and looked around. Then, she curled up her body and gently knocked her forehead against the legs of the table twice. Lena, oh Lena, what are you thinking about? You're dead. Tang quietly went up to the second floor and gently opened the curtains. The backyard was dark. However, Tang still vaguely saw a crouching figure in the corner. Probably frightened by the sudden extinguishment of the lights in the room, the man in black stopped for a moment. Then, he slowly got up and looked inside through the back door. Tang narrowed his eyes and saw the dagger in the man's hand. Thief? Assassin? What's going on? Whatever. Since he's here, he might as well stay. Opening the window, Tang jumped and pounced toward the black figure. Huh? The black figure suddenly raised his head. It was dinner, so Tang naturally wore home clothes. He wore a long-sleeved black gown. Now that he jumped down, there would naturally be some sound. The black figure was shocked to see a figure pouncing toward him. However, he reacted quickly and quickly thrust his dagger toward Tang's heart. Tang's figure suddenly moved 3 feet horizontally in midair, which defied common sense. He landed on the ground and flicked his wrist. Hiss! The red light brought his figure into the black figure's attack range. The man missed his attack. Seeing that Tang's swift attack had arrived, he couldn't help but feel a chill in his heart. He knew that he had met his match. He quickly blocked the dagger in front of him, leaving behind afterimages. Due to the needs of the profession, most assassins were good at explosive attacks and not specialized in long-lasting defense. Now that the two assassins had met, what else could be said? It was just a matter of who could suppress the other. In a narrow space, the shadows of the daggers from both sides were everywhere. Attack, 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 ding, ding, ding. Sparks were accompanied by crisp, clashing sounds. This was a pure confrontation of daggers. In just a few breaths, Tang swiped his dagger on the black figure's wrist, knocking the other party's dagger out of his hand. The outcome was decided. The red dagger went straight in a short moment. The black figure's lower abdomen, outer thighs, arms, and other non-fatal parts were all attacked. Blood splattered everywhere. Tangen's body was naturally not spared. After another stab to the ribs, the black figure lost all ability to resist and fell limp to the ground. Assassin TSK TSK. Although the two sides fought for less than 10 seconds, Tang had already determined the black figure's profession. I can't figure it out. I hope you can give me a satisfactory answer. Bending down, Tang slashed with his dagger and removed a strip of cloth from the black figure's clothes. Then he circled the other party's right wrist a few times, temporarily stopping the spurting blood. After doing all this, Tang suddenly looked up and saw Lena trembling and half of her pale face on the back window. Curling his lips and smiling, Tang waved his hand. He picked up the black figure and left his backyard. In a deserted alley a few streets away, Tang threw the black figure into a corner. Tell me, who sent you? What's your purpose? Cough, cough. The black figure spat out a mouthful of blood. A hoarse voice came from under the mask. I've lost. You can do it. The black figure was straightforward. Through the exchange of daggers, he had also determined Tang's identity as an assassin. Now that Tang was wearing home clothes and there was no disguise on his face, the importance of an assassin's identity was needless to say. He naturally knew that he had no way to survive. You're quite professional. Tang squatted beside the black figure. I know you're not afraid of death, but there are many things in this world that are more terrifying than death. The blood on your wrist can probably support you for half an hour. Well, are you sure you want to do it? The black figure looked at Tang indifferently and did not speak anymore. Well, damn it, I just had dinner. Have you had dinner? It's fine if you don't answer. Let's see what you had for dinner. Well, you really haven't eaten. You're too dedicated. Now you know why you lost. How can you have the strength to wield a knife without dinner? A scream was heard. Sorry, my hand slipped. But when I was seriously discussing the problem of eating with you, you fainted. That's too disrespectful. Sorry. I suddenly remembered that I don't know how to sew. Time is of the essence. Time is of the essence. Next, let's see how big your courage is. Yes, I believe it must be very big. Woo-woo, what did you say? Oh, there's a mask blocking it. I'll say. Did you say it? What a pity, there's still the artificial fountain game. Well, there's still enough time. Let's finish enjoying it first. After a while, Tang frowned and walked out of the alley. Thieves' Guild? Bess. Damn it, this gun is just lying there. Yeah. A black crow landed on the crystal pillar that lit the street. He stopped, raised his head, and glanced at it indifferently. Flap, flap, flap. The black crow suddenly flew away. Chapter 84. Although he was puzzled that a shut-in artist like Bess would be paid to assassinate him, it had nothing to do with Tang. Moreover, it was hard to say even if you wanted to. If you ran to someone and said that someone wanted to kill you, how would you know if they asked? Because I've already killed the assassin who wanted to kill you. When he got home, Lena was obviously relieved to see Tang. The two of them didn't mention what had happened just now. Tang quickly put this matter to the back of his mind. As usual, he went through a period of training in the space before thinking about how to find Grimace. The old butler could not help with the system mission, so he had to do it himself. After staring blankly at ghost faces killed data on the screen, Tang hugged his head. There was too little information, so he could not find any clues. Damn it, did he really have to break into the police station? Just as Tang was in a dilemma, something happened that made the decision for him. The next day, someone knocked on the attic door. Dong dong, Mr. Arthur. Dong dong, Mr. Arthur. Alan? Tang opened the door in surprise. Morning, Alan. You've thought of how to sell it so quickly. Alan hurriedly interrupted Tang. Mr. Arthur, look. Then he handed over a newspaper. Tang opened the newspaper in confusion. On the front page of Lai Yan's tabloid, there was a large blank space where business news was supposed to be. There were a few lines of words that were very eye-catching. Earl Blake, kill. Earl Aston, kill. Ghost face this. Tangen's mouth was wide open. He did not come back to his senses for a while. There was no April Fool's Day in the other world. Mr. Arthur, didn't you say you were interested in Ghostface before? I saw it, so I sent it over to you. Yeah, thank you. Was this news left by Ghostface? Tangen asked. That should be the case. The news has spread like wildfire. It seems like Ghostface barged into the place where the newspaper is printed last night and threatened the person who made the newspaper to add it. Tang looked at the big words on it and nodded silently. It had to be said that this was Grimace's usual style. However, he was more arrogant this time. He had actually published the news of the murders in the newspaper, specifically naming the 2 counts. Regardless of whether this assassination was successful or not, it was a first in the world of assassins. That's good too. Tang pinched the newspaper. He finally found some traces of Grimace. Since it was published in the newspaper, it must have spread throughout Lion City. The commoners' reaction to this news was rather simple. Some of them were cursing Grimace, thinking that it was these assassins who had disturbed the peace of the world. There were also those who praised Ghostface, claiming that all nobles deserved to be killed. Of course, the latter was said in secret. The situation within the circle of nobles was much more complicated. They all knew that it was time for the Aristocratic Alliance and the Resistance Alliance to fight. If this message had been sent by someone else, everyone could still ignore it. However, this was Grimace, who had dominated Lion City for more than 10 years and had never failed. If he succeeded, not to mention the far-reaching effects of this matter, even the Resistance Alliance would be greatly weakened. It was even possible that they would collapse completely. Not long after, the Blake family sent out a citywide announcement to stabilize the army's morale. Earl Blake announced that his 60th birthday would be brought forward to the first day of Brand Gregorian year 555, which was tomorrow night. As for the location, it would be on Earl Aston's luxurious ship on the Lano River. This announcement seemed to have nothing to do with Grimace's murder, but it was actually killing 2 birds with 1 stone. In layman's terms, this was a challenge. The meaning was simple. I will be on that ship tomorrow night. Come and kill me if you, Grimace, have the ability. The second meaning was for the Allies to see. No matter how turbulent the outside world was, I will still calmly host my birthday party. You can rest assured. Compared to the Resistance Alliance, who was confused, the Aristocratic Alliance was elated. Grimace has finally come out. Bevan's face was filled with joy as he laughed loudly. It was no wonder he was so excited. He had been under a lot of pressure recently. The Resistance Alliance had been constantly pressuring them, while his side had only sent out a bunch of pig-like teammates. This made him depressed. Gray's face was also filled with joy. Yes, Grimace has never failed before. That's right. However, never place your hopes on others. It will be best if Grimace succeeds. If he doesn't, it will buy us some time to breathe. As long as Bevan paused for a moment, then said, as long as I control all of the Golden Line Gang's power, I am confident that I can win this battle. Gray nodded. He had been sent to Bevan's side since he was young, so he naturally knew what kind of ability this young master had. However, Gray immediately frowned and said, that magical girl from the Crowley family is still leading those commoners to shout. Look, Humph. Bevan snorted coldly, his face immediately becoming gloomy. Those unruly commoners who don't know what they are. Tomorrow night, that Josiah will definitely attend that old fellow Blake's birthday party. At that time, pick a few people and teach them a lesson. Let them know that they are commoners. Yes, Gray replied in a deep voice. Knowing that Grimace was going to kill people, there was only one person in Lion City who was as happy as Bevan. That was Bose. As expected, he has made his move. Recently, I have been puzzled. The Aristocratic Alliance formed by the Robert family has clearly weakened, so why hasn't Grimace jumped out yet? Looks like my guess was right. Grimace must have a close relationship with the Robert family. So what if he has a relationship? We haven't even caught him yet. Do you have to be so happy? Bugnes poured cold water on him. Bose clearly wasn't discouraged. He was still full of confidence as he said, it will happen sooner or later. That old fox Blake has good methods. He set the location on the boat. When the time comes, we will sail into the wide Lion River. Let's see how Grimace will escape this time. Oh, you're so sure that Grimace will board the boat? I believe that many people can see that this is an obvious trap. No, you don't know Grimace well enough. I dare to bet all my wealth with you. He will definitely go. Bose was full of confidence. Bugnes shook his head. There's no need to bet. I don't care about your wealth of a few dozen copper coins. Let's contact Earl Blake and ask him to give us 2 invitations. No, I will go alone this time. You go to another place. Bose rubbed his red nose and said, Another place? Where? Bugnes was shocked. Bess is home. I still think that Bess is Grimace. Take advantage of this time when we know that Grimace will make his move. Go and monitor him. All right. Bugnes spread his hands and said humorously, This time, I really don't know if I should pray that your intuition is reliable or not. Haha, of course it's reliable. That's why you should pray for yourself. Bowing to thank book friend Bewitching Beauty for her tip. Chapter 85. It was the first day of brand year 555. The breeze was calm and the sun was shining brightly. Since the morning, the streets of Lion City had regained their peace. It was Earl Blake's 60th birthday. The Rebel Alliance naturally wouldn't spoil the mood. The Aristocrat Alliance had been pressured quite a bit recently. With such a rare opportunity to breathe, they wouldn't cause any trouble. Oh, it wasn't too peaceful either. There would be shouts from time to time, asking for demolition fees. This was a rather eye-catching activity recently. The shouts had expanded over the past few days. It used to be a few hundred civilians on Lena Street. Later, people from the surrounding streets joined in as well. Now, there were more than 1,000 people. With such a large group of people walking on the streets, it was rather eye-catching. Tang found Jack in disguise at the entrance of the Thieves' Union in the West District. Here, this is the invitation you asked for. Jack handed over a red and gilded wooden invitation. Thank you. Jack grinned. This thing isn't cheap in the black market. Do you have to go? That ship is obviously a trap waiting for Ghostface to take the bait. Why do you want to jump into it? Hee, I have a reason to go. Naturally, he couldn't tell outsiders about the system mission. So, Tang just brushed it off. Besides, I have a disguise. Don't forget about that. If I'm trapped on the ship, I'll be waiting for you to save me. Jack rolled his eyes and said angrily, Don't worry, I won't forget. Damn it, it's my bad luck to have met you. TSK, don't act like I tricked you. Don't forget that I saved your life. Besides, didn't I give you the disguise item? If it wasn't for the disguise. Here, this is a smoke crystal bottle. This is a strong light crystal. This is a sleeve arrow. Jack painfully took out the items one by one. Tang took them one by one without hesitation. How could there be any defective items that could catch the eye of a thief who specialized in tools? Then Jack gritted his teeth and took out a scroll-like thing from his arms. This is a magic shield scroll. I used to live in a noble's house. That noble friend gave it to me. I've always been reluctant to use it. Ahem, I'll avoid using it if I can. It's very valuable. Haha, not bad. Just one. Tang took it and played with it for a while. Jack was furious. Damn it. What do you think this is? Just one. Let me tell you, if this scroll were to be auctioned, it would be worth at least several thousand gold coins. During the day, Lena would participate in the shouting activities. So when Tang returned, the attic was empty. Tang began to make preparations upstairs. He put on his luxurious clothes, put on his sleeve arrows, and hid the various things that Jack had given him. Finally, with a flip of his wrist, the pitch-black dagger disappeared into his elbow. Next was the disguise on the face. After promising to give Jack the disguise tools, Tang made a few sets. Tang picked a pair of glasses and put them on his face. Then, he looked at them in the mirror and did various details. By the time he was done, it was already afternoon. Tang left a letter on the table in the hall. The general idea was that he had to do something. If it was short, it would take a day. If it was long, it was hard to say. Lena knew Tang's identity. When she saw the letter, she naturally understood. At the South Harbor Pier, because it had been very chaotic recently, there were fewer ships unloading goods than usual. Pier 11 and 12 had been completely shut down. It was not because there was a fight going on, but because there was an incomparably huge, luxurious ship docked at these two piers. The white hull was about 100 meters long. The hull was extremely simple and streamlined. Above the deck, there were 5 cabins. Near the bow of the ship, there was an extremely large symbol in the shape of an anchor. If one stood at the top of the ship and looked down while holding onto the railing, they would be like ants. They would unconsciously feel heroic and would feel bored as if they were above others. This was the luxurious ship that the Aston family was holding for Earl Blake's birthday party. On the pier, there was an endless stream of luxurious carriages. Although the party would start at night, the guests naturally could not come at night. That would be very rude. Of course, if your status was very high, then it would be a different story. Some of the nobles, big businessmen, and celebrities from all walks of life were chatting nonstop. They then walked towards the entrance of the ship together. There were a total of 2 entrances to the ship, one on each pier. At each entrance, there was a group of armed guards and 2 shrewd-looking butlers. The guests could enter the ship after passing the gilded invitation to the butlers for a quick check. There would be people inside to inform the guests of the resting area and the party hall according to their status. If the guests wanted to join the ship, there would be people specially accompanying them to introduce them. Everything seemed to be done quickly and methodically. This was the embodiment of a big noble family's deep heritage. At this moment, Bose, who was wearing a tight black coat and holding a large sword, got off the carriage. He was mumbling something and walked towards the entrance of the ship as if there was no one around. Some of the surrounding nobles and celebrities were not only surprised to see him. There were not many people in Lion City who did not know Bose. Everyone knew very well why he was here. After handing over the invitation, Bose could not enter immediately. It was not that the butlers did not know Bose, but that his large sword was too eye-catching. The Blake family did not impose a rule that forbade people from bringing weapons, but since it was a birthday party, the nobles and celebrities did not bring any. Even if some of the young nobles went in with swords at their waists, they would only be thin noble swords. They would not be like Bose, who carried a large sword that was as tall as a person. Those who knew that he was here to attend the party would think that he was here to cause trouble. Bose was not angry. He only waved his hand and asked the butlers to call people of higher status over. At this moment, another group of people walked past Bose and entered the entrance of the ship while chatting with each other. Huh? Bose exclaimed in bewilderment. He rubbed his big red nose and looked at the dozen or so people who had just walked past. This feeling, it was Mole. Could it be Ghostface? It did not seem like it, but it was a little familiar. Among the group of people, Bose only knew the nobleman who was leading the group. Judging by their clothes, they were probably merchants. Bose rubbed his hands uneasily. He watched as the group of people walked up the stairs and disappeared from his ship. He did not make a move. Interesting, there were actually some mole who managed to sneak in. Forget it, tonight's target was Ghostface. There was no need to care about these small fries. At this moment, a person who looked like a butler's rushed over and brought Bose in personally. In the evening, there were fewer people at the pier. Most of the guests had arrived. Woo! There was a low sound of a horn. The luxurious ship that was brightly lit started to put away the large iron anchor at the bow. Soon, a black iron anchor covered in mud was put away. The ship shuddered slightly. It slowly reversed, turned, and sailed out of the harbor. The luxurious ship's journey to the Lano River had officially begun. Chapter 86. The night sky was like a curtain, filled with stars. At this time, the land was long gone, but the luxurious ship still broke through the water surface and moved forward steadily. Tang In stood on the deck, facing the night wind and trying to sort out his thoughts. After boarding the ship, he roughly took a look around the ship. Of course, he couldn't enter places like the cockpit. On the surface, the defense of the ship was very tight. Almost every place was patrolled by guards. However, Tanga believed that Earl Blake's trap was far more than that. Where was Grimace now? This was a question that many people present were pondering. Tang and had also hypothesized how he would assassinate if he were Ghostface. However, he gave up immediately. It was better not to use a normal person's way of thinking to guess what a slightly crazy person would do. Tangen's current idea was very simple, which was to guard Earl Blake and wait for Ghostface to assassinate him. At that time, he would see if he could find any clues or take off Ghostface's mask. However, Tang frowned. When he boarded the ship, he saw Bose. This was a character that everyone in Lion City who walked in the dark feared. Tangen was no exception. Motherf asterisk Kerr. Tangen could not help but swear. Wherever he went, he would see this eyesore. Wow, it's so beautiful. A young girl standing not far from Tangen said as she looked back at the brightly lit 5-story cabin. Yes, I heard that this is the ship that Count Aston is most satisfied with. The ship's length is... A handsome young man standing next to the girl began to explain the ship's hull in detail. He seemed to have put in a lot of effort. The young girl listened attentively, and from time to time, she would make ah and wah sounds, showing her cute image to the fullest. The young man was clearly enjoying this, so he tried even harder to show off his knowledgeable image. The corners of Tang's mouth twitched. His memory was pretty good. Picking up girls was also a skill. The young man was talking about what the attendant had told him when Tang was touring the ship. Then what's the name of this beautiful ship? The girl blinked and asked. The young man was taken aback. Tang chuckled. I don't think the waiter mentioned this. A name, of course I have one. I think it's... Oh, right, it's Nicole. Nicole? Isn't that my name? The young girl asked doubtfully. The young man seemed to have thought of something. He said unhurriedly, Of course not. There's a Titan in front. You know, Titan is the name of God. Therefore, the ship's full name is the Titanic. Whoosh. Tang was sweating profusely. F***CK. Can't you come up with another name? Titanic? What a weird name. They're pirates. What knowledge can they have? It's normal for them to have such a name, the young man said without changing his expression. Oh, all right. The banquet is about to start. Let's go in first. All right, kid, I'll remember you. If this ship really sinks, I'll be the first to throw you into the river. Bah. Crow's beak. Oh, God of Titans, I was just joking. Please don't sink. Tang followed the couple into the hall with a conflicted heart. Earl Blake hadn't appeared yet, so the banquet hadn't officially started. The hall was bustling with people chatting happily and toasting each other. In a corner of the hall, there were dozens of musicians in black tuxedos holding various instruments. The melodious music in the hall was coming from there. In the center of the hall, there was a black piano. A middle-aged man with chestnut-colored curly hair sat on it with an engrossed expression. As the black and white keys danced, cheerful notes jumped out one after another, intoxicating the rich ladies and young girls in the surroundings. At the entrance of the hall, there were a few people holding charcoal pens and drawing boards. The scenes of aristocratic gatherings in Lai Yan's tabloids were usually provided by them. Beside them, Bose was sitting boldly, glancing at the people drawing from time to time. The people gathered together were talking about all kinds of things. Some were exchanging business information. Some were talking about various places of romance. Some were playing dice. And some were taking the opportunity to promote their ideas. For example, a middle-aged man with brown hair and an aquiline nose was giving an impassioned speech in the middle of the right side of the crowd. Let the new aristocrats sound the horn of change in the Brand Kingdom, use the funeral bell of dawn to send away the old system, and lead the wind of freedom to all the people. Let the Brand Kingdom, the land of God, enjoy the grace and glory of the God of light. Clap, clap, clap. It had to be said that the middle-aged man's speech was very infectious, causing the people around him to clap and shout. Wonderful speech, Mr. Charles. Thank you for the compliment. It's not difficult to give a speech in front of a group of people. The middle-aged man chuckled and paused, then said, especially when these people are drunk. Huh? The crowd couldn't help but laugh. Mr. Charles, may I ask what the new aristocrats mean by freedom? A heroic young girl walked over and bowed. Oh, that's Josiah. We advocate for expanding the voting range. As you know, the people sitting in the Parliament Hall now voting are some old aristocrats who are close to 100 years old. Let everyone participate in the voting? Josiah asked. The middle-aged man spread out his hands. Of course not, but it's definitely not just these old aristocrats who are about to go moldy. Well, the range of voters is moderate. If that's the case, the freedom you mentioned just now is moderate freedom? Exactly. Josiah pursed his lips. Mr. Charles, I believe in your attainments in the new aristocratic reform system, but if I have the right to vote, such a vague purpose will not win my vote. After a pause, Josiah continued, there is only one definition of freedom. A person either has freedom or does not have freedom. Just like death, there is no such thing as moderate death for a person. It's always a question of right or wrong. Wow, TSK. Tang Yin, who was passing by, praised Josiah softly. Recently, this Josiah had been organizing a shouting campaign, and now it was obvious that he had some ideas of his own. Clang, clang. After a few crisp knocks, the door to the hall opened. Two middle-aged men in luxurious clothes walked out. One of them was as tall and sturdy as a bear, while the other had silver hair combed back. They were Earl Austen and Earl Blake. The hall immediately quieted down, and everyone stood up to look at the two earls. They're here, Tang Yin secretly exclaimed, and moved forward with light steps. The two earls stopped after walking for a short distance. Earl Blake took a step forward and bowed slightly. Thank you for attending the birthday banquet at such a special time. I would like to represent the Blake family to greet everyone. Everyone in the hall hurriedly bowed back. The special time I mentioned just now, everyone should understand. Recently, there's been a lot of chaos in Lion City, and many of you have suffered great losses. I would like to express my regret. The root cause of all this is the aristocratic alliance led by the Robert family. My Blake family was requested by many families to form a resistance alliance, hoping to stop this group of people who have been blinded by greed. Here, I solemnly swear on behalf of the alliance that we will destroy the aristocratic alliance and redistribute the benefits to everyone. Hua! Clap, clap, clap. Those who were able to attend Earl Blake's birthday banquet were naturally from the alliance and some neutral families. They obviously supported Earl Blake's words, and some of the neutral families would not tear down the Earl's stage, so the atmosphere was very lively. Then, Earl Austen walked up and said in a rough voice, recently, there have been some reckless idiots clamoring to kill me and Earl Blake. Humph, it's fine if they don't come, but if they do, Earl Austen, will say that today's Lion River will be their burial ground. Clap, clap. Although they were not used to Earl Austen's vulgar way of speaking, everyone still gave him face and clapped their hands. Earl Austen took the cup and raised it. All right, next, let us toast to Earl Blake's birthday. In an instant, all the cups were raised. Music started. A melodious violin was played, a cheerful bagpipe was played, and a solemn piano sound floated out. Wait, solemn. Everyone who was about to raise their cups and drink turned their gazes to the piano in shock. The people playing the violin and bagpipe also stopped in shock. This rhythm, this is the climax of a death sonata? Isn't this supposed to be played at funerals? What are these people doing? The hall suddenly fell into an eerie silence. Only the pianist who was engrossed in the music continued to play. At this moment, the people who were slow to react also remembered the use of this piece of music, and their expressions became strange. Soon, the climax of the death sonata was played. The middle-aged pianist suddenly stood up and bowed to everyone, as if the silence was the best applause for him. Then he bowed deeply to the ashen-faced Earl Blake. Your Excellency Earl Blake, happy birthday! He stood up. Now you can die. Chapter 87. Your Excellency Earl Blake, happy birthday. Now you can die. He opened his hands, and the black tuxedo on the pianist's body suddenly flew out like a knife slicing through the air, heading straight for the door. Then, a figure with colorful clothes, long hair, and a strange mask appeared in front of everyone. Ghostface. A belated roar came from the door. Bose slashed vertically with his greatsword. Hiss! The tuxedo was directly cut open. At this time, Ghostface had already charged in front of Earl Blake like a cannonball. He bent down and extended his dagger, stabbing it into the heart of the astonished Earl Blake. Ugh! It ended just like that. Tang Yin and the rest were shocked. Creak! Crack! Suddenly, Earl Blake's body shattered like glass, turning into flowing light that scattered in all directions. Magic mirror image. Ghostface stomped on Earl Austin's body. Crack! There was the sound of fragile glass shattering again. He suddenly turned around and saw Earl Blake and Earl Austin appear out of thin air at the side door of the hall. Beside them stood a magician wearing a black robe with red patterns. "Ha! Ghostface, you'll die here today." Earl Austin laughed loudly. Earl Blake chuckled. "You're the best birthday present I've received today." Ghostface did not reply. At this time, Bose had already arrived. Slash! Bose did not say anything else. He swung a red combat aura slash in the air, smashing it straight at Ghostface. Ghostface was like a ghost. A sword gleam flashed across his hair, and he charged straight at the two earls who had turned to enter the side hall. "Where do you think you're going?" Crack slash. Dozens of red sword auras shot out from the ground irregularly. The wooden floor immediately fell apart. Ghostface's body flashed left and right, weaving in and out of the sword gleams as if he was in an unstoppable state. In the blink of an eye, he charged out of Bose's attack range and rushed to the side hall. "Everyone, please quickly retreat to the deck." A person who looked like a butler called out at the door. Hearing this, everyone rushed to the door like a swarm of bees. A fight between experts is indeed interesting to watch, but it's too easy to get caught in the crossfire. It's better to quickly retreat. Tang Yin, on the other hand, looked flustered. He pretended to run the wrong direction and followed Bose into the side hall. Earl Blake and the other man had definitely calculated their retreat route. When Tang entered the side hall, he discovered that there were two more armored martial artists. The two of them were currently fighting with Ghostface. Yellow and blue dough chi emanated from their bodies, indicating that they were all high-level warriors. The black-clothed magician was escorting the two counts into the next room. "Haha, Ghastly, let's see how you're going to run today." Bose immediately joined the battle with a laugh when he saw the current situation. They were all experts, so it was only natural that they would not accidentally injure each other. Grimace was instantly besieged. At this moment, the luxurious decorations in the side hall were immediately destroyed. Rumbling sounds and explosions were heard continuously. With the slightest bit of dough chi leaking out, the expensive tables, chairs, and murals of the masters were immediately destroyed. Tang Yin was now in a dilemma as he shrank into a corner. The system said that it was investigating Ghostface's true identity. Did the dead count? Before Tang Yin could finish considering this question, Ghostface exploded. A dazzling golden light suddenly erupted, and the place where the few people were fighting was immediately enveloped. The few martial artists were all veterans of hundreds of battles. When they saw that everything in front of them was blank, they immediately put on their Do Chi armor and held their swords in front of them to activate their Do Chi. Boom, 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 Do Chi overflowed. It seemed that a few moves had been exchanged, and the side hall shook a few times. Bang, bang. Two figures flew out and crashed into a pile of broken tables and chairs. Looking at the figures, it was Bose and a martial artist with blue Do Chi. Then, a colorful figure like a gust of wind swept toward the exit that the two counts had just left. Ah! Red Do Chi erupted. Bose rushed out of the broken wood with a roar. Then, with a flick of his coat, a bright silver armor appeared on his body. Then, like a tank, he pushed toward the door in a straight line. The two martial artists also rushed over almost at the same time and directly went through the door. In just a moment, the center of the battle had shifted, leaving only the messy room and Tang Yin in the corner. At this time, there was a burst of heavy footsteps from the door behind him. Tang Yin turned his head and saw rows of guards in neat armor rushing toward him. Damn it, they're cutting off his escape route. Tang In gritted his teeth and continued to run forward. After passing through the door, Tang In saw a long corridor appear in front of him. The long corridor had become a corridor of blood. It was full of fierce men who had fallen down, and there were shining long swords. This is Ghostface, who was constantly advancing in front, had turned into a rather illusory, colorful figure. He kept flashing in the crowd, leaving behind the big men who were bleeding all over. The big men who were still standing had red eyes. They rushed toward the colorful figure without fear of death, intending to hug Ghostface. These were men of sacrifice. Tang In immediately understood what the two counts were doing. In this large group of men of sacrifice in this narrow corridor, as long as anyone could hug Ghostface for a moment, then Ghostface would be greeted by a swarm of people and swords. In this environment, the effect of the human wave tactic was played to the extreme. Soon, this tactic was effective. A big man hugged Ghostface. Although Ghostface instantly cut off his hands with a dagger and got rid of him, a knife still cut Ghostface's body. This was Ghostface's first injury tonight. Fortunately, he was not far from the exit at this time. With a clear shout, Ghostface's figure disappeared, and then countless golden dots appeared. Hiss. The remaining men of sacrifice were thrown off their feet. Ghostface rushed out of the encirclement covered in blood, carrying the highly penetrating golden dots. Whoosh, whoosh, Bose and the two martial artists really could not intervene in this kind of human wave tactic. At this time, seeing Ghostface break out of the encirclement, the two hurriedly followed. Looking at the long corridor that was about to turn into a river of blood, Tang In chased after him with a complicated expression. This Ghostface was too perverted. When Tang In rushed out of the corridor, what appeared in front of him was an upward spiral staircase. Obviously, Ghostface and the others had gone up. The location of the hall was on the 4th floor of the cabin, and above it was the highest building of the ship. Logically speaking, the higher they went, the fewer directions they could retreat in. It was impossible for the two counts to not have thought of this problem. Now that they were still going up, could it be that the two counts had made preparations there? Before Tang In could think about it, suddenly, a sharp scream came from above. A woman? What's going on? The third watch has ended. Well, I accidentally exceeded the time again. But as usual, the civet cat is still awake, so it's still considered the third watch. Dear readers, seeing such a diligent civet cat, why don't you quickly send in your recommendation tickets? Carrot. Chapter 88. The 5th floor of the luxurious ship was a viewing room. The purpose of this room was to admire the river scenery through the crystal glass, while also being protected from the sun and wind. Ghostface, who had rushed in first, was standing quietly in the middle of the room. In front of him was a black-robed mage, while Bose and the rest were blocking the door behind him. Not far from the door, a waitress with a pale face was sitting on the floor. She was the one who had screamed just now. She could only say that she was unlucky to have encountered such a scene. Haha, Ghostface, how is it? The scenery here isn't bad, right? Are you satisfied with this as your grave? I think so, because I have no choice. Huh. Earl Austin and Earl Blake laughed out loud. It was no wonder that the two of them were so fearless. A high-level mage, 3 high-level warriors, and an endless stream of guards rushing over. Such a luxurious lineup was more than enough to deal with Ghostface. Of course, there was something that made them feel more at ease. It was the light blue barrier that divided the room into two. Blake pointed at the colorful patterns on the surrounding walls and floor and said, "Let me introduce it to you. This is a high-level magic barrier. It was drawn by 3 magicians overnight. If you want to break it, you'll need at least the strength of an Earth-rank warrior." Ha! After a pause, Earl Blake picked up the wine glass beside him. Earl Austin, how lucky are you and I to be able to witness the death of the #1 assassin in Lion City. This is worth a toast. This will be the most beautiful scenery I've seen here. I can't wait. Ha, cheers. Earl Austin raised his wine glass. Ding! A crisp sound rang out as the 2 crystal glasses collided. This sound seemed to be the prelude to the battle. The black-robed mage raised a brown cane and waved it a few times. Instantly, more than 10 blue icicles appeared in the air, forming a formation and piercing towards Ghostface. Behind him, bows and the rest sent red, blue, and yellow combat energy swords towards Ghostface as fast as thunder. Faced with this pincer attack, Ghostface did not dodge. Instead, he stepped forward and crashed into the icicles. In an instant, the icicles were about to reach him. Bang! Under the attack of the golden light, the Blue Eyes prism was instantly shattered into ice shards. Kai Ying's figure quickly turned again, and the 3-do chi slashes brushed past her body. The ghost face drew an arc in the air and charged straight at the black-robed magician. Defend! The black-robed magician instantly made a few complicated and mysterious hand gestures. His cane floated in front of him, and an egg-shaped blue oval enveloped him. Just as the colorful dagger was about to hit the magic shield, it suddenly disappeared in a thin air, and the colorful shadow actually stepped behind the mage like a ghost. He rushed to the blue magic barrier in the room and thrust out his golden dagger. Break! Bang! The blue barrier rippled like a stone falling into the water, spreading out in all directions. However, in an instant, the formation patterns in the room lit up and the ripples subsided. Once again, the room returned to its tranquil state, while the ghost face was directly ejected. Huh! The two earls were shocked at first, but then they laughed happily. Before Grimace could attack again, the mage who had been fooled had a furious look on his face. His robe fluttered, and he opened his arms wide. Freeze! The temperature in the room dropped abruptly, and ice crystals formed on the crystal glass closer to them. Grimace, who bore the brunt of the attack, slowed down abruptly. Then a golden glow bloomed on his body, resisting the invading cold air. However, in terms of speed, he eventually slowed down. Bose and the others were overjoyed. How could an assassin compete with a martial artist when he had lost his speed advantage? The three of them wore combat aura armor of different colors and crashed into the cold air, attacking the ghost face directly. Magic attacks did not care if you were a teammate. After the three of them entered the center of the cold air, their speed also slowed down. However, the three of them did not mind. The three of them crossed their swords, patiently sealing off the ghost face's space of movement while attacking. This was a tacit understanding unique to experts. They intended to suppress the ghost face in a narrow space, then use their combat aura to meet force with force and defeat the ghost face. This method of playing to one's strengths and avoiding one's weaknesses was undoubtedly the most feasible attack method now. The ghost face's figure flickered continuously, still able to find the weakest point in the dense sword light to break through. However, it was undeniable that the space around him was constantly being compressed. As the three of them cooperated more and more, the ghost face took longer and longer to find the breakthrough point. Ding, 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 bang, bang, bang. The combat aura that could not be suppressed spread out in all directions, constantly hitting everywhere. Layers of ripples kept appearing on the magic barrier behind him. The spectating mage suddenly realized that something was amiss as he was not involved in the battle. The ghost face clearly had the space to dodge to the side in the attack just now, but he still stood where he was and chose to lean back, which was more difficult to dodge. This was extremely illogical. If it had happened to someone else, such a dodging method might have been used to show off his movement skills or something. However, who was the ghost face? How could he have such lame thoughts? At this moment, the sword light brushed past the ghost face's chest and hit the magic barrier behind him. The black-robed mage's eyes flashed, and he immediately shouted anxiously, "Be careful of the magic barrier. He's baiting us to attack." Bose and the others were in the midst of attacking with all their might, but they were stunned when they heard that. Then, they noticed the blue magic barrier that kept rippling. The three of them were shocked. Could it be that the ghost face had been expecting our attack method all along? In the end, it was all for his benefit? This ghost face is really too scary, too unforgivable Bose and the others were enraged. They hated their lack of intelligence, but also felt humiliated that they had been slapped in the face. Roaring flame slash, rock burst, thousand frenzied tidal strike. In their anger, the three of them chose to use their special skills in an instant. Instantly, flames burned wildly, disintegrated, and raging tides attacked. The red, yellow, and blue combat aura sword light each formed a strange phenomenon, all smashing forward at once. Roar! Faced with such a dangerous situation, the ghost face let out a rare roar. The golden light was not scattered like before, but spewed out in a large area, as bright as noon, shining brightly. In this light, it was as if a golden lion had appeared, roaring with its head held high, its voice echoing 1,000 miles as it looked down on all directions. Boom, 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 combat aura of various colors intertwined, causing the black-robed mages on the outside to be unable to see the battle situation clearly. At this moment, large ripples appeared on the magic barrier not far from the center of the battle, and the magic ripples inside lit up continuously. Ah! Roar! Two indignant roars sounded, and a red and blue figure was the first to be struck out of the circle of combat aura. Immediately after, a colorful figure was also sent flying, vomiting blood in the air. The one who remained was the warrior with the yellow combat aura, but his face was not looking good now. Ghostface had actually attacked the red and blue combat aura in both of his attempts to break out of the encirclement. As for his yellow combat aura, he dodged slightly and then took it head-on. Obviously, he had seen clearly that his combat aura attack was the weakest here. Regarding this, the warrior was helpless. His combat aura was indeed more stable and defensive. Originally, he was paired with the blue warrior, one attacking and one defending, and they complemented each other perfectly. Who would have thought that after encountering the ghost face, he would be ignored time and time again? How embarrassing. Golden Lion Battle Technique. Bose, who had smashed a bunch of tables and chairs, suddenly laughed maniacally. Ha, Bess, you are Bess. Chidian website welcomes readers to read. The latest, fastest, and hottest serialized works are all on Chidian's original works. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.